Prologue. The blood of my sister splattered against my fur as I felt her lifeline snap. The bond was weakening as more and more wolves were murdered. My husband, the Alpha, was in the middle of it all, fighting the Alpha of our enemy pack. My heart ached, not being able to go and help him. I clawed my opponent across the face and dashed into the big house. I quickly shifted to my human form and ran up the staircase, grabbing a curtain to cover myself. I opened the door to the first room and slammed the window open. "Mom, what's going on?" My eldest daughter Daphne asked worriedly. Everett and Amabel sat up groggily. My 3 children were oblivious to the raging war downstairs. Daphne got past the wall I'd built to protect my thoughts, and she let out a sob. "Mom, no, I'm staying with you." She sniffed. "What's going on?" Amabel, the youngest, wondered. "Is everything okay?" Everett looked worried. I grabbed a Sharpie and took my eldest daughter's hand. I scribbled down the address of my father and pushed my 3 angels to the window. Amabel and Everett were confused, while Daphne was begging me to come with them. "Go to this address. Don't come back here, understand?" I took Daphne's head between my hands and looked her in the eye. She nodded numbly, and I kissed the top of her head. I could feel her sobs shaking her as I held my daughter in my arms for the last time. I grabbed Amabel and Everett in my arms and held the 3 of them close to me, willing myself not to cry. This was the last time I would see them, and vice versa. "Take care of each other," I cried and rushed them out the window. My children screamed when they saw the war and shifted into 3 brown wolves, dashing through the trees. Their father smiled when he saw them escape and fought through to attack another enemy. "Peekaboo, found you." A low voice boomed behind me, and the last thing I saw was my mate's eyes as he was too late to save me. The Alpha, their father, my husband. His mossy green eyes locked into mine as the sharp teeth of the enemy pierced my neck, taking my life. My soul parted from my lifeless body and looked down upon the same wolf taking the life of my beloved, who was more than willing to die after seeing me murdered. The Oak Pack was officially killed to extinction. Chapter 1. Wake up, sweetheart. I grudgingly opened my eyes to look up at my grandmother. As usual, she smelled like lavender and soap. Her short, curly white hair framed her friendly, wrinkly face, and her thin lips curved into a warm smile. She had brown eyes, just like my father and I, and it was obvious that my grandmother was even more gorgeous when she was younger. She lovingly brushed stray hairs off my forehead and reached over to open my window. The melodic notes of chirping birds filled my room, and the freshly cut grass reached my nose. My sharp werewolf senses could also smell the sweet scent of rain dew from last night's downpour. I slowly sat up. "What time is it?" 7. "Now hurry up, darling. We don't want you to be late for your first day of school." The delectable smell of bacon hit my nose. "Is grandfather making breakfast?" "Special for you." She beamed down at me before standing up off the edge of my bed and walking to my bedroom door. "Hurry, dear." I stretched and walked into my bathroom. The hot water jolted me awake and fogged up my mirror. I dried off and used a corner of my fluffy towel to wipe off the condensation on my mirror. Looking back at me was my reflection. I wasn't ugly, nor would I consider myself pretty. I had wavy, dark brown hair, brown eyes, and slightly tanned skin from all my days running through the woods with my siblings. I stood at 5 feet and 8 inches tall and had a slim figure. Many people called me gorgeous, but I didn't see the attraction. I dressed in light, skinny jeans, my favorite brown leather knee-high boots, and a cream-colored knit sweater. Deciding to leave my brown locks as they were, I just ran my comb through them a few times. My eyebrows raised as I realized how long my hair had gotten. It now reached my mid-back. I sighed at my reflection. This version of Amabel Murdoch was a pitiful excuse for the daughter of an alpha, and I knew it. A few months ago, my pack was slaughtered by an unknown enemy pack, leaving my siblings and me orphans. We had just managed to escape with our mother's help. My mother. She and my father both died helping us escape, giving us our grandparents' address. We'd arrived on their doorstep, exhausted, and they hadn't given us time to explain or ask for their help before they were ushering us inside. A few months later, and I was still having nightmares about that night. The last look I saw of my father was his lips curving up in a peaceful smile, knowing that his children had escaped. For weeks, I'd been lost in despair, wanting to join my parents and not live with all these heart-piercing memories, but I knew how disappointed my parents would be with me. They'd sacrificed their lives to save my siblings and me, and to end my own life would dishonor that gift of a second chance that they had given us. "Amabel, hurry up! Grandmother won't let us eat without you," my older brother Everett shouted from downstairs. "Coming," I called down to my impatient 20-year-old brother. I took the stairs 2 at a time and followed the scent of scrambled eggs into the cheerful kitchen. My brother and sister, Daphne and Everett, looked like replicas of me, but older, and obviously, my brother was a different gender. They also had my mother's emerald green eyes, while I had my father's chocolate brown ones. I always envied them for that gorgeous feature, and wished that I were as attractive as my elder siblings. We were all 2 years apart from each other. Daphne was 22, Everett was 20, and I was the youngest at 18. I scooped a pile of scrambled eggs onto my plate, grabbed a couple of pieces of bacon, and squirted ketchup onto the scrambled eggs. Grandmother handed me a cup of orange juice, and I smiled at her gratefully. First day at Thunderview, Belle. Nervous? My grandfather grinned at me over his newspaper. Sort of. It's the middle of the year. I crunched on a piece of bacon. You'll do fine, darling. I'm sure you'll make loads of new friends. My grandmother kissed my grandfather's forehead. Your grandmother and I met in our senior year, grandfather said affectionately. You know, I think I should get going. I don't want to be late on my first day. I placed my plate in the sink and grabbed my backpack, rushing out of the house before my grandparents began gushing about when they first met. I'd heard the story hundreds of times. It was literally love at first sight. For werewolf mates, it always is. Mated couples say that they know their mate by their voice, touch, and presence. That being away from your mate was physically painful, and too much time away from your mate could drive a wolf insane. The bond between an alpha and his mate was the strongest bond in existence. Once an alpha male claims his mate through the bond, it pains them to be away from each other even for a few hours. I always found myself laughing at these rumors. It wasn't possible to love somebody that much, in my opinion. According to Greek mythology, the first humans and lichens were created with 4 arms, legs, and eyes, and 2 heads, noses, and mouths. Afraid of their power, Zeus split them in 2, leaving them to find their other half. The other half is called our soulmate. I had yet to find my other half, and couldn't care less whether I found him or not. Nobody could dull the pain I go through every day, knowing that my parents were dead, and my pack was dead. The only ones I had left were my siblings and grandparents. I climbed into my grandfather's rusty pickup truck and tossed my backpack onto the passenger seat. After a few attempts, the car finally started, and I turned the heat up to full blast. The radio pounded with heavy metal bands. Everett had used the car before me. I scowled at the screeching music and quickly plugged in my iPhone. The song Angel by Akon played through the speakers, and I sighed, my ears relieved that the screeching and screaming rhythms were over. I'm looking at an angel, and believe me when I say she got this whole place glowing, glowing, glowing. Ooh, I hummed along. The town my grandparents lived in was green. Not the sustainable kind of green, but literally green. Forests bordered the small village, and mushy moss crept up the walls of most buildings. It was beautiful, the perfect place for a werewolf to live. I slid into a parking stall in Thunderview High's lot and took a deep breath. I could do this. I grabbed my backpack and hopped out of the car, feeling curious gazes resting on me. Chewing my bottom lip, I let my feet lead the way. My boots clicked against the damp sidewalk as I headed to math. The map wasn't necessary, considering the school was so small, but it made me feel more comfortable. All heads turned when I opened the door to the math room, and a blush crept onto my face. My heart pounded, nervous that everyone's attention was on me. Almost immediately, my gaze locked with a set of stormy gray eyes. They froze my heart and sent tingles down my spine. This couldn't possibly be happening. I reluctantly broke our gaze and walked over to the teacher's desk, feeling his eyes on me the entire time. The teacher looked me over and grunted before signing the slip of paper I gave him. I was to get that slip of paper signed by each of my teachers and drop it off at the office at the end of the day. Folding the paper up and stuffing it into my pocket, I sat near the back of the room. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw him stand up and make his way toward me. Please no. He loped lazily toward me, with the confidence only an alpha like himself would have. I pretended to ignore him as he got comfortable at the desk next to me and leaned back in his chair. I'm Bo Chandler. You are? His voice alone sent a shiver down my spine. It was like a chorus of all beautiful sounds in existence, and it seemed to flit around my ears, washing over them. Amabel Murdoch. I turned my head to look at him and almost gasped. He was extremely, painfully, frighteningly attractive. Bo had tousled black hair with a bedhead look, steel gray eyes that softened when they met mine, and hard, defined muscles. He was wearing dark jeans, a gray crewneck t-shirt that hugged his chest, and a black leather jacket. The wolf inside me was rejoicing, finally having met our mate. She was already communicating with Beau's wolf, who was delighted as well. He hooked his thumb underneath my chair and dragged me closer to him. I could either scoot away or choose to ignore it. I chose the latter. Ignoring the adrenaline rush I got just from being inches away from my mate, I tried to focus on Mr., whatever his name was. Of course, I couldn't comprehend a single word he was saying. Beau's hand was draped over my shoulders, and he was twirling a lock of my hair around his fingers. After getting bored with my hair or getting no response from me, he moved his hand to my knee. I immediately stiffened, earning an amused grin. He drew small circles on my knee with his thumb. Fortunately, class was over soon, and everybody, including the teacher, rushed out of the classroom. That left me alone with Beau. I quickly stood up to dash out of class, but he backed me against the wall and kissed my throat. "Beau, stop," I gasped, but I didn't want him to stop. "Amabel, I am your alpha and your mate. You are mine and only mine. I am yours and only yours. Don't tell me what I can and can't do to you," he murmured. I started. Before I could protest, his lips were pressed against mine, and the traitor I was to myself, I made no move to remove them. Eventually, he pulled back, breathing softly. "You'll eat with me at lunch today," he said, and lazily made his way out of the room. What just happened? I heard the bell ring and quickly rushed to my next class, feeling my skin tingle where his lips had touched. His alpha possessiveness had taken over and was showing me that I was his. Beau's point of view. I listened to Xavier's constant chatter as I watched the cafeteria doors, waiting for her to enter. Amabel was the only thing on my mind today, and I knew that I was on hers. My alpha wolf was screaming at me to storm the school looking for her, but it would frighten the humans. They wouldn't understand my possessiveness over Amabel and would probably think of me as some predator. I wish she were my mate. I came back to reality and saw Xavier looking at my mate. I grabbed him by the front of his shirt and growled, low and deep, with the power of an alpha, mine. "Geez, Beau, I get it. You could have just told me. No need to get all creepy Darth Vader alpha dude on me. I didn't know." Xavier held his hands up in surrender. I glared at him one last time before searching the room for my mate. She had finished paying for her lunch, and our eyes locked. She was beautiful. Deep brown eyes, silky hair, a slim body with curves in all the right places. She was the perfect example of an alpha's mate. There was a certain innocence about her that intrigued me. I motioned for her to come, and, to my surprise, she did. She chewed her bottom lip as she headed over to my table. I liked that. I growled at Xavier to move down one seat, which he did, and pulled Amabel's chair closer to mine. She sat down uncomfortably, shooting nervous glances at the members of my pack who were still in high school. I felt her relax when I wrapped my arm around her waist and grinned internally. To a human, the relationship between Amabel and me would look like an abusive one, and that I didn't treat her well, but this was how alpha wolves were to their mates before they claimed them. Extremely possessive and highly protective. After school, I wouldn't let her out of my sight, no matter what that took. A few minutes later, a thin boy with glasses and a mop of tangled blonde hair came up to our table. He was twiddling his thumbs nervously. Hi, Amabel. I was, just, wondering if, you wanted to, catch a movie with me, later?" The geeky boy kept looking nervously at me. A low growl escaped my lips, and if Amabel hadn't spoken up when she did, that boy would most definitely be hurting right now, no doubt about it. "Sorry, Simon, but I already have a boyfriend." She gestured to me. "Oh, well, okay, sorry, Beau." He quickly disappeared in the lunch crowd. "You really have to work on your temper," Amabel murmured to me. "And you really have to understand that you are mine." I brushed my lips across her jaw. Chapter 2. Finally, school was over. I grabbed my bag and made my way out of the French room. A familiar dark god was waiting for me, leaning lazily against the wall next to the door. He hung his arm over my hips and led me to the office. "How did you know I had to go to the office?" I wondered. "The slip of paper in your back pocket." "Wow, so you were watching me and just happened to notice the paper?" I scowled, typical alpha checking his mate out. "Yup." I sighed and opened the office door. Musty air hit my nose, and I coughed. It is evident that there was an attempt to mask the awful scent with Febreze, but it didn't work. At all. I buried my face in Beau's jacket for a split second, breathing in his spicy cologne mixed with a woodsy smell. It smelled so good. I handed the slip of paper to the lady at the desk and watched as she checked each signature, then ripped the paper in half and threw it into the trash can. She checked off a box by my name. "Did you have a good first day?" she asked sweetly. "Yeah," I shrugged. "I see you met Mr. Chandler." She glanced at Bo. Yeah. There are security phones by each classroom if you ever need them." She shot me a pitying look, which I almost laughed at. "Okay, thanks." Bo let out a low growl, quiet enough that human ears couldn't pick up the noise, but my ears did. I leaned into his side as we walked, pleasing the alpha wolf. I walked toward my truck, but Bo had other ideas. He pulled me toward a sleek black motorcycle. I skidded to a halt. "I am not getting on that." "Yes, you are." He picked me up bridal style and walked to the death machine. "What about my truck?" I protested. "I'll have a pack member drop it off at your house." "How would they know where I live?" "Your scent." He said it as if it were the most normal way to find somebody these days. "What is my scent?" I wondered. "Cinnamon and vanilla," he replied affectionately. We got to the motorcycle and he put me on the back of the bike. Bo slid in front of me and chuckled. "What?" I frowned. "You might want to hold on." "Oh." I wrapped my arms around his chest, feeling his defined muscles underneath the thin cotton shirt. His wolf let out a contented purr when I buried my head in the back of his leather jacket. The spicy, woodsy scent calmed me. Bo jerked the motorcycle forward, and I held on to him tighter. My legs instinctively drew closer to the bike, and my ankles clamped tighter against the metal. The wind blew my hair out of my face and actually felt kind of refreshing. "Love, you can let go now," he said softly with a hint of amusement. I noticed that we were in my driveway. I quickly let go of Bo and climbed off the bike. Bo murmured something to me before speeding away. "Meet you in your room." I blinked, puzzled, and unlocked the front door. My grandparents bombarded me with questions about my first day, but I told them I had a lot of homework to do. I changed into comfy gray sweatpants and a thin, cotton, white tank top. Not knowing what to do with my hair, I knotted it in a messy bun. Next, I took out my laptop to research current authors for English. I was writing down Cassandra Clare's name in my notebook when my window slid open. One side of my mouth quirked up when I saw that it was my dark god. Bo's point of view. I sped to my house to drop off the motorcycle, wishing Amabel were still sitting behind me. She seemed so fragile, yet tough at the same time. Her scent was so perfect, vanilla and cinnamon. Her touch calmed me down and told me that it was okay. She was mine and no one else's, and she knew that. Liked that. I could sense her presence and knew if she was within a mile of me. I dropped the bike off in the garage and crept behind a few cars to shift. Unfortunately, my wolf got too excited to see our mate, and I shifted before I could get my shirt off. Oh well, Amabel would have to deal with me shirtless. I held my pants in my mouth and sprinted the few miles to Thunderview, arriving in less than a minute. Damn, I loved my alpha speed. I shifted and put my pants on in the woods before climbing into Amabel's truck and speeding to her house. Her house was quiet when I arrived. Everybody seemed to be doing their own thing. I silently parked the pickup in the driveway and followed my mate's scent to her bedroom window. It was on the second floor, a piece of cake. I jumped up and grabbed the windowsill, effortlessly holding myself up with one arm while sliding the window open and climbing in. Her room was painted a light orange color and had silver furniture. A queen-sized bed was pushed up against one wall, and Amabel flopped down on it. She looked up at me when I came in, and a corner of her mouth curved up. I grinned and tiptoed to her door, closing and locking it, before doing the same to her windows. I didn't want her family members to meet me just yet. My beautiful mate sat up and watched me lock all of her windows. Once they were all locked, I took her laptop and notebook off her bed and placed them on the desk. I sat down on her bed and leaned back against the wall, wrapping my arms around Amabel's waist and pulling her toward me so she was sitting between my legs and leaning against my bare chest. "May I ask why you're shirtless?" She rested her head in the crook of my neck so she could look up at me. "My shirt got destroyed." I shrugged. "It doesn't seem like you object to me not wearing a shirt." "Of course I don't object." "Good," I grinned. "You'll get over it, you overbearing alpha." I chuckled and playfully reached for her notebook. "You're not going to just steal my things on the first day we meet," she said, amusedly. "You want to bet?" I gave her a wicked grin. "No, you'll probably win," she scowled. "Too late." I flipped her over so she was on her back, and I was leaning over her. She looked alarmed, but I wasn't going to hurt her. Instead, I tickled her. "Oh my God, Bo, stop!" she gasped between giggles. I used the distraction to steal her notebook, holding it out of her reach. She scowled at me and panted from laughing so hard. How did you know I was ticklish? She pouted. I guessed. I shot her a sly smile. Okay, give that back. You win. She reached for her notebook, which I tossed to the floor. What was that for? She frowned. Nothing. I just wanted your attention. I shrugged. She sat up and scowled, attempting to ignore me. Note the word trying. I wrapped my arms around her and pulled her to me, leaning in close. Her she-wolf was going crazy, but Amabel remained stubborn, refusing to acknowledge me. My lips gently touched hers, and all she did was let out a small gasp. Bo, stop, she muttered, the effort to remain in control obvious in her voice. You are mine, Amabel. I murmured against her soft lips. I know. She linked her arms around my neck and kissed me back, pulling herself closer. I held her tight, feeling the connection between us. Her wolf was happy, and mine wanted to claim her right now. She traced my shoulder with the tip of her finger, and I realized how close we were, which was affecting her, too. I slowly pulled back just as she let out a quiet sigh. Amabel, dinner, a male voice called from downstairs. I growled. She lived with another male werewolf. My mate silenced my growl by placing her hand on my chest. It's my brother, she reassured me. I leaned back and let her slide away from me. Don't take too long. I'll be waiting for you. She smiled and gave me a peck on the lips. Coming. I watched my mate slowly close the door behind her and heard her take the steps 2 at a time. Amabel's point of view. I hid my grin as I entered the kitchen. My grandparents were dishing everyone up, and Daphne was setting the table. She raised her eyebrows at my positive state but didn't say anything. I flitted over to the counter to see what my grandmother had made. There was a scoop of mashed potatoes, a spoonful of corn, and a piece of juicy chicken on each plate. My stomach growled, causing my grandfather to chuckle at my flushed cheeks. Looks like someone's hungry. He handed me my plate. I'm starving. During the meal, I ate as fast as I could, knowing that Bo was in my room waiting for me. My grandmother shot me a curious glance, which I guiltily ignored, and Everett gaped at me. How the hell did you finish your food so quickly? He wondered. I have a lot of studying to do. I got to stay on my teacher's good sides, I said nervously. That's my girl. My grandfather ruffled my hair affectionately. I gave him a weak smile and washed and dried my dishes. The glassy soap bubbles blew throughout the kitchen, entertaining Everett. He looked like a fascinated 5-year-old. I grinned at his expression and flicked water onto him before rushing up the stairs. Good night. Don't bother checking on me. I'll be studying, I called to my family. I opened my door and slid into my bedroom. Has anyone ever told you that lying is a sin? He was sprawled on my bed, flipping through one of my photo albums. I cuddled up next to him and rested my head on his shoulder. Bo put his arm around me and continued to flip through the album. Only you could pull off rainbow braces, he chuckled. I grinned. I can pull off anything. Bo put the album back on my desk and pulled the covers up. I cuddled next to him, and he wrapped his arms around me. I fell asleep lying against my dark god. Chapter 3. Bo's point of view. Sunlight streaming through a window awakened me the next morning. I realized that Amabel was lying next to me, her beautiful face resting on my solid bicep. She was wearing sweatpants and a thin cotton tank top. A sliver of skin was visible between the waistband of her sweats and the hem of her tank top. I brushed my thumb across it lightly, feeling her smooth, flawless skin beneath my finger. She sighed and snuggled closer to me. I know that from a human's perspective, our relationship was moving extremely fast. The two of us met yesterday and were already sleeping together. This was the typical speed of a relationship for an alpha and his mate, though. In fact, I'll probably have claimed Amabel within a month. Werewolf bonds between mates were very strong. Within an hour of meeting their mate, wolves are in love. The bond between an alpha and his mate is even stronger. Within the few seconds we saw each other, we were unconditionally and irrevocably in love. Once I claim Amabel, we'll be able to speak privately together using our mate bond. She'll also be a part of my pack and have access to the pack bond. Amabel stirred, and her chocolate brown eyes fluttered open. They flicked up to me, and a small smile appeared on her face. My mouth immediately curved up in response, and I leaned down to press my lips to hers. Our lips touched for a few seconds before she pulled back. Amabel stroked my jaw with her thumb and rested her head on the pillow again. I breathed in the cinnamon vanilla. What time is it? She wondered. I glanced at her alarm clock. 6:30. It's so early. She curled into my side and buried her head in my chest. "Do you want me to stay with you or meet you at school?" I murmured to her. "Stay with me." A smile crept onto my face, and I kissed her forehead. "Okay, go get dressed. I still have to shower and grab a shirt from my place." She yawned and sat up. "Okay." I reluctantly let her go and get ready. Leaning back against her headboard, I closed my eyes and listened to see if anyone else in her family was awake. Her brother wasn't at home. I guessed that he was at work or with his mate. Amabel's sister was asleep, and her grandparents were whispering in their bedroom. The shower clicked off, and the bathroom door opened. Amabel had a towel wrapped around her nude figure and was sprinting to her closet. I grinned, and she stuck her tongue out at me before an unwilling smile appeared. I wanted to claim her right then and there, but knew that now wasn't the time. She shut the closet door behind her, and I could hear her rummaging through her clothes, trying to decide what to wear. I wondered why she took so much time choosing her outfit. My mate would look dazzling in anything. I decided that today, before school started, I would request to have my schedule changed so that Amabel and I had the same classes at the same time. The secretary working was easy to convince, and if she wouldn't budge, I could use my alpha control to force her obedience. The closet door opened, and I was stunned. She was beautiful. Amabel was wearing a thin, flowery dress that gathered around her waist and flowed to her mid-thigh, a faux fur tan vest, and ankle-high wedge boots with brown laces. The dress hung on her body perfectly, showing off her curves in a way that was sexy but not slutty. She shot me a confused look when she realized I was staring at her in awe, and I was shocked. Did she really not notice how pretty she was? "What?" she asked, puzzled. I stood up and walked to her, wrapping my arms around her and pressing my forehead against hers. Amabel's cool hands rested on my chest. "You look beautiful," I murmured. She blushed and stood up on her tiptoes to kiss me. Our lips molded together perfectly, and her lips curved up against mine in a small smile. I'm not sure how long we stood there, but eventually we heard her grandmother making her way down the hall to Amabel's room. "I'll meet you outside," I whispered. She nodded and met her grandmother at the door as soon as I jumped out the window. Amabel's point of view. "Bye, grandmother," I called behind me. "Make sure to get breakfast, sweetheart." "I will." Using my werewolf senses, I followed the spicy, woody scent to my mate. He was leaning against a tree. "My house is a few miles away." "I'm pretty sure your brother took your truck," he said. "Crap," I groaned. He looked thoughtful for a moment. "I have an idea." Bo took off his pants and shifted into a large black wolf. His stormy gray eyes were the same, and his fur was dark as a raven's, yet soft as silk. Bo's wolf form was massive, at least 80 pounds larger than the average werewolf. He motioned for me to climb on, and I groaned. "Why can't I just shift too?" I asked. He just shook his head and motioned for me to get on again. I sighed and obeyed him before his possessiveness won out, and he gave me that lecture about me being his. Honestly, I didn't mind him telling me that. I loved the fact that the alpha inside him was so possessive and protective of me. I climbed onto his back and he shot forward, like a bullet. I guessed that we were traveling faster and faster by the millisecond, most likely quicker than a bullet. I leaned down closer to his back so the wind wouldn't rip my head off, and in less than a minute, we were in front of a small house. The house was in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere. The walls were made of stone, and with my sharp vision, I noticed that the windows were made of bulletproof glass. There was a ramp leading up from somewhere below the house, most likely the garage. The house was 2 floors tall and looked incredibly modern for this town, heck, modern to any city. I climbed off of Bo's back and looked at the house while he shifted and put his jeans back on. He took my hand and led me to the front door, slipping a key out from behind a stone in the wall. I raised my eyebrows when I saw that there was a thick layer of solid metal behind the stone wall. "Do that many people hate you?" I grinned. He chuckled. "There's a stone wall, 2-inch metal, 2-inch concrete, 1-inch metal, soundproofing, then drywall." My jaw dropped, and he smirked at it while skillfully turning the key in the lock and slipping it back behind the stone. He removed another stone to reveal a thumb scanner. He placed his thumb on the scanner, and the scanner glowed green. He slid the stone back into place, and the metal door slid open. Looking at the wall, you would never guess where the correct rocks were. I thought the outside of the house was impressive. The inside blew my mind. "I'll give you the tour," he smirked, amused, at my expression. The walls were painted a clean white color, and there was a shiny black wood floor. Overhead lights lit every room, and beige leather furniture decorated the space. "Kitchen," he pointed to the corner of the room. The kitchen was situated on a raised platform and resembled the type of setup you'd see on television. The counters were a black, white, and red granite, polished to perfection. There was a stainless steel oven, refrigerator, dishwasher, and sink. A bar separated the living room and kitchen. Living room. The beige couches were low to the floor and were arranged in an L shape in front of a glass coffee table. An 80 widescreen TV was hung on the wall. Beau pulled me up a metal winding staircase that led to just one huge bedroom. The walls were painted red, and the flooring was identical to the one downstairs. There were 2 doors, one on each side of the room. One leads to the bathroom and the other leads to the closet. Bedroom. In the middle of the room was a large king-sized bed. It was made of black leather and had fuzzy white blankets draped over the mattress. 4 fluffy pillows leaned against the headboard. Bathroom. He opened one of the doors to reveal a large bathroom. The tile was a silvery black, and one wall was entirely made of mirrors. A long counter was against the wall and had 2 sinks with long, elegant faucets. The counter was a pearly white. In one corner of the bathroom, there was a huge bathtub. It was a triangular shape and looked like a jacuzzi. The shower was around 6 feet long, stretching across one wall and 5 feet wide. There were different knobs for temperature and buttons to push for the water control. Silver racks had fluffy white towels draped over them. "I don't think you want the tour of the closet. It's just a rack of clothes," he shrugged. "You live here?" I breathed. The house looked like it cost billions of dollars. I couldn't imagine how Beau would afford all of this. "Yup, my parents paid for it and gave it to me for my 18th birthday. "Wow." He chuckled and picked me up, placing me underneath him on the vast bed. I sank into it, the mattress feeling like clouds. Beau kissed my collarbone and slowly brushed his lips up to my mouth. I moaned and hung my arms loosely around his neck. He pressed his lips to mine, and I kissed him back. Beau grinned when I bit down gently on his bottom lip and opened his mouth. He twisted his tongue with mine and moaned softly. I pulled back, panting. "You should probably get ready for school." "Do you still want to go to school?" Beau was breathing heavily, too. "I can't have the teachers hating me just yet." He groaned and sat up, leaning off of me. I sat up, too, and finger-combed my hair, making sure it didn't have that "I just made out" look. Doing my absolute best to keep my eyes away from Beau's 8-pack, I readjusted my dress and stood up. "While you shower, I'm going to see what food you have." One side of my mouth quirked up. "You don't want to come in with me?" He raised one of his eyebrows playfully. "I'll pass this time." I teased and went downstairs. "You said this time. I'll remember next time." I could hear the shower starting as I opened various cabinets, looking for what Beau had. Typical male. He had hardly any food. Beau probably just ordered pizza or takeout for his meals instead of going to the grocery store. Grumbling, I settled for a Cliff Bar. I finished it in a few bites and decided to look over my history notes while waiting for Beau. I flopped down on one of the tall bar chairs and studied my notes. Failing my first test at Thunderview would not be a confidence booster. "King John signed the Magna Carta in 1215, I muttered. A few seconds later, 2 muscular arms wrapped around my waist, and the spicy, woodsy scent reached my nose. I leaned back into his chest as he buried his face in my hair. "What are you doing?" he wondered. "Studying." "Never mind." He grinned, and finished the rest of my orange juice in a single gulp. I grinned and turned my head to face him. "How in the world do you plan on graduating?" "I'll use the bond to get answers from you." "What if I refuse to let you claim me until we graduate?" I said smugly. "I'm not worried about that. I'll have claimed you by then." He growled huskily. An involuntary shiver ran through my body, and I frowned. "What if I refuse to give you the correct answers?" "I have that all figured out, too. If I don't graduate, I'll be at school the whole day while you're home alone. Isn't that a waste of time? Think of all the things we could do in our spare time if I graduated," he murmured in my ear. I pushed him away, cracking a smile. Beau shot me a wicked grin. He was wearing dark jeans, a dark green crew neck that hugged his defined muscles, and his leather jacket. "Come on, it's 7:15. He grabbed both our bags and headed down a set of stairs. "Where does this lead?" "Weapons room and garage." "Weapons room? Do I look like the type of guy who would live without at least a silver-bulleted machine gun?" I gulped. "Have you ever had to use it?" "Several times. That's why this house is so secure." I shuddered and continued to follow him down the stairs. This must be underground. We walked into a large room. The space was split in half. A thick metal door was closed and locked. It probably led to the weapons room. In the garage, there was Beau's motorcycle, a Hummer, a sturdy-built truck, and a white van. We climbed on the motorcycle, and I wrapped my arms around him again. I held on tighter than last time, knowing how easy it was to fall off of this thing. I could feel Beau's 8-pack underneath his thin shirt. Beau pushed a button on the bike, and the garage door slid open. He sped out onto the ramp, and I could hear the thick, metal garage door slam shut behind us. I rested my head on his back and let the wind blow my hair behind me. The motorcycle wasn't as bad as I remembered. Chapter 4. Beau and I had all the same classes so that he would sit next to me in each class. My mate made it incredibly hard to focus. The way he would play with my fingers to amuse himself, or ask me millions of questions about myself. The two of us were sitting together in math. Beau fired question after question at me. Favorite ice cream flavor? I thought for a moment. Mint chip. Favorite color? It depends on my mood. Sometimes it's white, other times it's orange. Favorite animal? Wolf? I grinned. What about you? You're my favorite animal. So, wolf? Not your shifted form. You. As in Amabel Murdoch. I know that you can become as feisty as a wolf. Oh really? Like when? I challenged. In bed, he said smugly. And how would you know that? I raised my eyebrows teasingly. I'm going to learn that soon. Guaranteed. I snorted softly and tuned back into the lesson. Beau was fiddling around with my fingers, twining them with his, rubbing his thumb across them, stroking my palm. It was hard to focus. Very hard. Luckily, math was over. The bell rang and I swung my bag over my shoulder, feeling Beau's hand close around mine. We walked to the cafeteria together, Beau asking more questions. I answered them as truthfully as possible. When we got to the food line, Beau just got one tray and piled a ton of food on it. You're eating all that? I asked. Of course not. Half is for you. I can't eat half of that. You're right. 1/4 is for you. The other 3/4 are for me. Happy? I paid attention during math, he grinned. Beau, that's 3rd grade math, I laughed. Damn. He paid for the food and held the tray in one hand easily, snaking one arm around my waist. He was so possessive. I followed him to the table his pack sits at and chewed my lip when I realized there was only one seat left. I was about to go grab another chair when Beau wrapped his arms around my waist and pulled me down onto his lap. 5 other people were sitting at the table. I could tell that 2 pairs of mates were there, and the other wolf wasn't mated yet. They all smiled warmly at me and introduced themselves. I'm Brielle, a petite blonde girl introduced. Jet, her auburn mate grinned at me. I'm Demi, a black-haired girl smiled. Name's Birch, her mate said warmly. Call me Xavier. I mean it. Call me. A cute auburn boy winked, obviously Jet's twin. Beau growled deeply, glowering at Xavier. I twined my fingers with his, calming him down slightly. He breathed in my scent to relax, and his muscles began to loosen. I'm Amabel, I smiled. Lunch was a fun event. Everyone joked around together, and I already felt welcome. I had just met the 5 and already considered them friends. Beau kept one arm around my waist the whole time and ate with one hand, which I found hilarious. It wasn't like somebody was going to rip me off his lap or I was going to fall off. I didn't complain, though not minding his possessiveness. After school, I went over to Beau's house. We were cuddled up on the couch, both tired. Beau ordered pizza. Do you want to stay here tonight? He murmured. Okay. I called my grandparents and told them that I was staying at someone's house and would see them the next day. Of course, my grandfather somehow knew that I was staying with my mate. I'll make a deal with you, princess. You can stay at his house whenever you want as long as you bring him over for dinner sometime, my grandfather offered. I glanced at Beau, knowing that his sharp ears picked up the offer. He nodded, agreeing to the deal. Okay, deal. I said bye to my grandfather and yawned, curling back into Beau's side. Beau picked me up bridal style and carried me up the stairs into his bedroom. When we got to the bed, he placed me in the middle and lay on top of me, leaning on his elbows so I wasn't crushed, yet our bodies were pressed together. I arched my back and pressed my lips to his gently, as his hand reached under me and fiddled with the hem of my dress. I kicked off my boots and vest, and he did the same with his shoes and jacket. In one swift motion, Beau took my dress off. I was wearing a pair of red lacy lingerie underneath. I bit down on his lip and tugged off his shirt. He pulled his shirt off the rest of the way and tossed it to the side. I placed my hands on either side of his face and brought his lips down to mine. Our mouths crushed against each other with bruising force, but neither of us pulled back. Beau slipped his tongue inside my mouth and twisted it with mine. I moaned and wrapped my legs around his waist. His hands ran up and down my sides as mine traced his defined muscles and tangled in his hair. I bit down on his tongue as a no, when his hands fingered my bra clasp and started to tug my panties down. When he didn't listen, and his wandering hands continued, I dug my nails into his back lightly, hard enough that he could feel it, but soft enough that it didn't sting. He pulled back, panting. His voice was husky. Why not? Our eyes locked, my brown ones with his stormy ones. He searched my eyes, as if the answer would be hidden in them. His eyes were darkened by lust and desire, and I knew that mine were too. I didn't say never, just not yet, I murmured. Why? Now is as good a time as any. I know that you want me to claim you, he whispered. I know, I just don't want to. Yet. Just not right now. Okay. He was struggling against his alpha instincts. Not to claim me right now. Our lips met again, our tongues twined together, and my fingers tangled in Beau's hair. We kissed again, less desperately than before. When the doorbell rang, both of us almost had a heart attack. Beau growled and continued kissing me, choosing to ignore his visitor. I grumbled and slid out from underneath him, picking up his shirt from the ground. I put it on, relieved when the hem dropped to mid-thigh. Beau groaned and ran his fingers through his hair. Sighing, he went downstairs to answer the doorbell. I went downstairs and sat at a bar stool as Beau placed the pizza box on the kitchen counter and took out a slice, not even bothering to use a plate. I sighed and walked around to the other side of the counter. Oh, sorry, he mumbled through a full mouth. I smacked him lightly on the chest and reached up into a cabinet to grab a plate. It was a ceramic, glossy black, square-shaped plate. I slid a piece of pepperoni pizza onto it, and Beau handed me a can of Diet Pepsi. We curled up on the couch and chewed our food in silence. After 6 pieces of pizza, Beau leaned back, so he was lying across the couch, and rested his head on my lap. I subconsciously combed my fingers through his hair. We were both lost in our own thoughts, only aware of each other and our own thoughts. Around half an hour later, Beau looked up at me. When did you move here? He wondered. A few months ago. Why did you move? My heart rate increased, and my breaths were heavier. Thinking about that night freaked me out, and I had nightmares about it every single night. Actually, now that I think about it, last night was the first peaceful night I'd had in almost a year. It was probably because Beau was with me. His stormy gray eyes still searched mine for an answer, frightening me. I didn't want anyone to know of my past. I wanted to keep it in the past and never look back upon it. To never repeat that night's events again. I just wanted to see my grandparents more often. I stuttered, avoiding making eye contact with Beau. You're a terrible liar, love. What? Did you get out of jail, make some enemies, get spotted shifting? You can tell me. It's not that simple. A tear dropped from my eye, and I quickly wiped it away before Beau took notice. Of course, his observant eyes missed nothing, and he immediately sat up and pulled me into his arms. I curled up in his lap and buried my teary face in his chest. Dry sobs racked my body, and I wrapped my arms around him, making sure that he was still there. Beau felt like the only thing keeping me tethered to the earth. If either one of us let go, I would float up into the universe. Shh, it's okay. Everything's okay. He rocked me back and forth, whispering comforting words in my ears and kissing my cheeks, forehead, and lips. The sobs slowly subsided into small tears, which eventually gave way to sniffles. I had my arms looped around Beau's neck and was sitting on his lap, leaning my head against his warm, solid chest. My mate's muscular arms were wrapped around me. Tell me when you're ready. I won't force you to. He kissed my forehead. Beau's point of view. If I knew that Amabel was going to freak, I wouldn't have asked her the damn question. She was curled up in my lap, calming down. I felt only pain in my chest, that whatever awful thing made my beautiful mate move here was so terrible that she broke down. She was mine. Nobody hurts my mate. Can we to bed? She looked up at me. Her long lashes were wet, and her cheeks were tear-stained. She looked so vulnerable right now that I wanted to hold her in my arms forever and keep her to myself. Amabel was adorable and sexy at the same time in my shirt. The hem reached a few inches below her ass, and the sleeves went past her elbows. Sure, I kissed her. I pulled her legs up so they wrapped around my waist and stood. Amabel rested her head in the crook of my neck and linked her arms behind my neck. I headed up to my bedroom and carried her to the bed. Instead of spooning together like we did last night, Amabel snuggled into my side, facing me, and I put my arms around her. She buried her head in my bare chest. I love you, she murmured. I love you too. More than anything. Chapter 5. I opened my eyes the next morning to see Beau still asleep. He looked so peaceful in his sleep. not at all like the ruthless, arrogant, fearless alpha I'd grown to know. A small smile crept onto my face, and I sat up. A muscular arm reached up and hooked around my waist, pulling me down onto a rock-solid chest. "Ow, why is your chest so hard?" I grumbled. "Pure muscle." I sighed. I rested my head on his chest and felt Beau's arms wrap around me. I closed my eyes and listened to the steady rhythm of his heart. Beau lazily and subconsciously rubbed his hand up and down my back. His eyes were still closed. "What time is it?" I murmured. "I have no idea. Do you want to ditch?" "No way." I rolled my eyes. "I bet I can change your mind," he said cockily, suddenly sounding more awake. "Nope," I said stubbornly. All of a sudden, I was flipped over, and Beau was smirking down at me. He leaned down and slowly started kissing up my neck, kissing softly along my heated skin. I held back a sigh, and he pressed his lips to mine. I kissed him back, linking my arms around his neck. He made a low sound deep in his chest and pulled me closer. Beau gently bit my bottom lip. I smirked and kept my mouth closed. He growled wickedly and moved his hand up my shirt, his touch sending shivers over my skin. His hand went higher, and I gasped. He took the opportunity to deepen the kiss. Cheater. I could be stubborn too. I wrapped my legs around his waist, pulling him closer. He growled and tugged at my shirt. I made no move to help him, irritating him. My shirt stayed on, and my mate got frustrated. He pulled back, brushing his lips down my jaw. He brushed his lips against my ear, making a gasp escape my lips. Beau kissed the side of my neck, trying to find my soft spot. He kissed the skin behind my ear, and a tingle ran through my body. I sighed unwillingly and felt his lips curve up. Beau kissed the spot again, making me arch, and in a swift move, he pulled the shirt off. I glared at him, but all he did was kick his jeans off, leaving him in his boxers. I realized my legs were still wrapped around his waist and tried to remove them. His hands clamped around my ankles and tightened my legs around his waist. "God, why are you so crazy?" I asked in between kisses. "Don't you mean, why am I so crazy for you?" "I mean what I said." Our kisses were getting more desperate. I had both my hands on either side of his face, keeping his lips to mine. Beau's hands were everywhere, on my hips, my back, my face, my hair. I knew what his wolf wanted. Just as his hand moved to my back, I pulled away. He growled deep in his chest. "Amabel, do you remember what I told you the day we met?" I gulped, recognizing it as a rhetorical question. "I am your alpha and your mate. You are mine and only mine, and you won't tell me what I can or can't do to you. Stop treating me like some belonging. I know you're my mate and I know that you're to be my alpha once we mate, but you can't tell me what I can or can't do." I burst. "You are mine. Understand that," he growled. I wiggled out from underneath him and tugged his large shirt back on over my body. Beau growled again as I walked out of the room. I stormed downstairs and slammed the front door behind me on my way out. I started sprinting and heard the door slam again as Beau came after me. I shifted into a brown wolf with shocking green eyes and pushed myself as fast as I could go. Beau was right behind me, gaining every millisecond. A few miles later, a few seconds, I was in front of my house. I quickly shifted into my human form and jumped up to my window, pulling myself into my room. I shut and locked the window behind me, not wanting to deal with Beau right now. In a matter of seconds, I heard a tapping on my window. I wrapped a towel around myself and glared through the glass at my furious mate. "Go away!" I growled, knowing he could hear me. "Amabel, open the window." "I told you to go away. What part of go away do you not understand?" He gave me one last look before jumping to the ground and shifting into a big black wolf. My heart ached as I watched him sprint away. But I knew that this was for the best. My possessive mate needed a wake-up call. I wasn't a belonging. Tears ran down my cheeks as I watched his retreating figure. The black wolf crept sullenly back into the woods. I angrily wiped the tears away. This was his fault. Why was I feeling so heartbroken? Chapter 6. God, I'm starving. Xavier grabbed me and sprinted across the mall to Sbarro's Pizza. He ordered 10 pieces and sat with me at one of the mall tables. I'd been depressed for the past week, after my fight with Beau, so Xavier convinced me to help him find a gift for his mom. I knew there was a completely different reason for this, but I didn't want to discuss it or think about it. "So, how are you and Beau?" he asked nonchalantly, taking a huge bite of pizza. "Xavier, just get to the point." He tossed his empty plate into the trash can. "Seriously, Amabel, you have no idea what's going on in that guy's head. Every time one of us goes to visit him, We leave with him threatening to chop our heads off, and he's dead serious every time, pun intended. I twirled my straw. First off, that was a terrible pun. Second, I just can't do it. I have a heavy past, Xavier. I don't want Beau to take part of the load, meaning me, and I don't want him to pity me. That's all I've been getting from people who know. So the whole possessive thing was just a cover-up to protect your feelings? I don't know. I slumped glumly in my seat. Amabel, have you ever stopped to remember that you two were meant for each other? That's why you're mates. Beau's the only guy who can at least help with the load of your past. Just give him a chance. It's not that easy, Xavier, I sighed. The guy's a wreck, Amabel. I know that within a few hours you will be too. That's why I told you to meet me here. I took a sip of the carbonated drink and ran my thumb along the side of the cup, causing the condensation to race down the side. I know, I said quietly. So you'll talk to him? Xavier's mood brightened. No. I slung my purse over my shoulder and tossed my drink into the trash, walking away from Xavier. I heard him growl in frustration, then follow me, easily catching up with his long strides. You're just going to be in pain, he warned. I know I will, Xavier. Please just leave me alone. I'll text you later, okay? Yeah, whatever, he muttered, then walked back toward Sparrow's to order more pizza for himself. I chewed my bottom lip and walked out of the mall and home. A light fall of rain washed over me, but quickly became a pouring shower. I started jogging, holding my purse above my head in a pitiful attempt to stay dry. My dark brown hair was glued to my face, drenched in rainwater. Finally, my house came into view. Nobody was home. My grandparents and siblings had decided to go to Vegas for the weekend. They'd offered to take me, but I insisted on staying home. I knew that it was because I couldn't stand being that far away from Beau, but I was currently trying to convince myself that it was because I had to study for a non-existent test. After fumbling with the lock and key for a few minutes, it finally clicked open. I stumbled into the house and locked the door behind me. I was drenched in rainwater and panting slightly from running those few miles as a human. I dumped my purse onto the couch and took the stairs to my bedroom 2 at a time, longing to change my clothes. I dried off and threw on a pair of lacy black lingerie and a white tank top. I towel-dried my hair and tossed the towel into the laundry room once I considered my hair dry. I went into the kitchen and looked around, trying to find something to eat. I wasn't hungry, but I needed something to occupy my time. Grinning, I opened a bag of Skittles and popped a purple one into my mouth. Skittles were my guilty pleasure. Suddenly, an ache in my chest started up. Within a few seconds, my body was vibrating and became numb. I gasped and stumbled up the stairs into my bedroom, falling onto my bed just in time. My body shook with pain, and my teeth chattered. A light sheen of sweat covered my skin, and I felt like I was burning. My body was engulfed in flames, and nothing I did, or could do, would extinguish them. I let out a small whimper before my hearing went, replaced by an everlasting buzz. It drove me crazy and gave me a pounding headache. Then I was an ice cube. I was frozen, solid, shaking to try to break out of the ice covering my skin. The coldness slowly began to seep through my skin, freezing my blood. I shivered, trying to get rid of the cold. I screamed and clawed at the air, feeling as if I were drowning in my clothes. My whole body was numb, and I couldn't feel anything. My tank top and lingerie were suffocating me, giving me the urge to rip them off. I was in such awful condition that I didn't even notice when my door was slammed open. Beau's point of view. I brought the bottle of vodka to my lips and took a long gulp, loving the burn as it slid down my throat. I couldn't get drunk, but I could still feel the fiery effects of the alcohol. Every single part of me missed Amabel. A week of staying away from her was almost physically and mentally impossible. I'd had to chain myself to my bed on the second day and had ordered a few pack members to get me the alcohol. An empty bottle of Jack Daniels was in my lap. I'd finished it a few seconds ago. I was about to take another sip of the vodka when my wolf growled and I nearly shifted. I quickly gained control and heard a piercing scream. It was a few miles away, but I could listen to it as clearly as if the person screaming was in my bedroom with me. My blood went cold when I recognized the voice. Amabel. Suddenly, a fire started in my chest. I was consumed with one need, to claim my mate. I felt all my muscles tense, snapping the chains bound around me. A deep growl ripped from my chest, and I struggled against the urge to shift. Sweat poured down my face as I tried to control the desire, but the passion just intensified by the second. Then my head pounded, and the need tripled impossibly. I was shaking with effort, my muscles bulging and tensing up. My teeth ground together, and my hands were clenched into fists. I was holding my breath, not daring to move. I felt as if I were holding onto a vine, hanging above a raging river. The raging river got stronger and higher by the second, but the vine only grew weaker. I knew what was happening, and didn't want to give in to instinct and Mother Nature. Amabel and I were experiencing the side effects of my not claiming her. Currently, she would be immobile, making it easier for me to claim her. This part of the alpha werewolf instinct was created because sometimes alphas have defiant mates who refuse to mate. A small whimper coming from a few miles away made me lose it. My mate didn't have a chance of making it out unclaimed. As if the vine and river did exist, I growled as the vine snapped. I shifted into the vast black alpha wolf and let out a loud, long howl. It cut through the night air, setting a few families on alert. In less than a second, I was sprinting through the woods. I dodged trees and leapt over fallen logs, traveling at an impossible speed. Never had I run this fast, but I couldn't focus on my newfound speed limits. Amabel was the only thing I could think about. She would be mine within an hour. Her house came into view, and I jumped through an open window in her kitchen, not bothering to shift yet. I slammed the window shut and locked all the entrances to her house, not wanting to be bothered while I was claiming her. I scaled the stairs in a single leap, still in my wolf form. My wolf was going crazy. Amabel was within a few feet of us. I slammed her door open with a loud bang to find her leaning against the wall, panting and clawing at her tank top. Her dark brown waves were mussed, a few strands glued to the side of her face. She was wearing lacy black lingerie and a white racerback tank top, which only helped to stifle the desire. A light sheen of sweat covered her bronze skin, and her full, cherry-red lips were releasing small pants of air. I locked her door behind me and lunged for her, shifting to my human form in midair. My body slammed hers against the wall with a loud thud, causing a gasp to leave her lips. I knew that before I could properly claim her, she had to give in to me. My hands ripped the tank top off her, and I ran them down her sides, feeling her curves. I shook with suppressed desire, holding it back until she gave in. I let my lips plant butterfly kisses on her throat, occasionally sucking at her salty skin or nibbling at it. She moaned but remained still, as stubborn as ever. Frustrated, I sucked at a spot beneath her earlobe. She gasped, and I could tell that she was using all her control to remain still. I continued to suck at her soft spot, but let my fingers explore her body. Unashamed, they crept underneath her bra, making her lose all control. Her fingers bunched in my hair, pulling my face down to hers so our lips would meet. They met with a bruising force, and a low growl ripped through my body. I let my hand wander until it was underneath her thigh. I pulled her legs up to wrap around my waist, earning a barely audible groan. Our wolves were insane, uncontrollable, and filled with lust. A shudder ran through Amabel when my hand ran up her back, tracing her spine. Her hands were smoothing my jaw, feeling the stubble I'd gotten while chained to my bed. I bit down on her bottom lip, drawing blood. The sound that erupted from her chest was a half-moan, half-growl. My tongue explored her mouth, and I almost jerked when her teeth closed around it. Not hard enough to draw blood as my bite did, but enough to cause pain. I smirked against her lips at my mate's competitiveness. I was right. She was feisty. I pulled her away from the wall, laying her down on the bed. I crawled on top of her and leaned enough so every part of us was pressed together, but I wasn't squashing her. We were both panting heavily, gasping for air that didn't reach our lungs while kissing. Our eyes were locked, and we both knew what would happen next. "Don't resist me," I murmured, letting my hands wander. "I wasn't going to," she breathed. A wicked smile flashed across my face. "Good." Chapter 7. I stirred and took a deep breath, inhaling the spicy scent of my mate. The horrifying pain I experienced last night, extinguished by Beau's rescue, was gone. I was left with a dull ache throughout my whole body, caused by the mating. I sat up slightly, leaning on my elbow, and finger-combed my hair. Holding the blanket to my chest, covering myself, I recalled the events of last night. I'd gotten home from the mall and taken a shower. After eating a few Skittles, I was engulfed in pain and barely made it to my bedroom before losing it. Then, Beau burst into my room, sweating and growling with a furious expression on his handsome face. He'd gotten me to give in to him, leaving me claimed. I was truly and fully his. My legs were tangled in the sheets, and with my dark gods. I would never get over how peaceful Beau looked while sleeping. His full lips weren't smirking all the time or scowling, and he looked at ease. He'd woken me up several times last night, which is why I was so exhausted. Beau's breathing caught, and his eyes fluttered open, those stormy gray orbs taking in his surroundings. They were filled with remembrance as they studied my bedroom and my rumpled tank top lying on the floor. His arms tightened around me, and only then did I realize that I was sprawled across his chest. He rolled over so I was underneath him and smirked down at me, brushing his lips across my jaw and pulling me closer. I twisted a few strands of his raven black hair around my finger, tangling my hands in his silky bedhead. "How long were you awake?" he wondered. "Not long." I rubbed my thumb over his stubble. "Why didn't you wake me up?" "You look adorable when you're sleeping," I grinned. "Me? Adorable? Believe me, I'm far from adorable," he whispered huskily. Bo nibbled on my collarbone and ran his hand down my back. His hands seemed as if they were trying to memorize every detail of my body. I grabbed a pillow and shoved it in his face, laughing when he growled. "You are unbelievable." I held back a slight giggle. "I could say the same about you." Then the pillow was underneath my neck, slanting me upward, closer to the face of my mate. A smug smile spread across his features as our lips met, and I found myself smiling against his lips, just as he was smiling against mine. I wrapped my arms loosely around his neck and made the kiss short and sweet, not heavy and intense like last night. Apparently, Bo liked the kisses hot and heavy because he growled deeply and gently bit my bottom lip. Unfortunately for him, I was too tired to have a repeat of last night. I pulled back and snuggled up in the blankets. "Now let me go to sleep." "As you wish." I could hear the amusement in his voice. The muscular figure rolled off of me and came up behind me, pulling me against a set of rock-hard abs. I closed my eyes and rested my head on a solid bicep. Warm fingers traced patterns on my stomach, leaving trails of heat. No wonder he was so willing to let me sleep. He planned on teasing me the entire time. "Watch out, you might be the one getting teased soon," I murmured warningly. His hot breath was against the back of my neck, and his fingers continued their trails. I felt his muscles tense teasingly, pure muscle making an appearance underneath his bronze skin. I smirked. "Mr. Alpha, don't say I didn't warn you. Do you plan on punishing me? I have some gear in my weapons room." He sounded slightly excited. "Maybe." I flipped the blanket off of me and stepped into the bathroom, slamming the door shut on an aggravated Bo. He pounded on the door and fiddled with the handle. "Amabel, I swear I'll knock this door down," he threatened. "If you knock it down, I'm never sleeping with you again." He got quiet, sifting through his options. Stay outside the bathroom while I shower and await his punishment, or barge in and never sleep with me again. A victorious grin covered my features as I turned on the shower and stepped into the steaming water. I was rinsing the shampoo out of my hair and the soap off of my body when I heard the lock click. Gasping, I pulled the shower curtain back slightly to see a smirking Bo. He was holding a pin in his hand, most likely one that had been found on top of my nightstand. I frowned and covered myself with the shower curtain. "I'm not sleeping with you again," I said. "Yes, you are. You said you wouldn't sleep with me if I knock it down." I didn't knock it down. A smug smile made its way onto his face. I huffed and yanked the shower curtain closed, deciding to ignore him. I could hear Bo's low chuckle as he closed the bathroom door. A small yelp left my lips when the shower curtain was pulled open, revealing my mate. "Oh my God, Bo," I gasped. "You owe me a shower," he said as he stepped in and slid the curtain shut. "What are you talking about?" "Remember the first time you came over to my place? I asked you if you wanted to join me in the shower, and you said, 'Not this time. I'm holding you to your word.'" My eyes widened, and I was about to protest, but his lips on mine silenced me. The kiss lasted for almost a minute, and then Bo pulled back and kissed my throat. I shivered as his lips brushed my skin. I felt my back press against the cold tile wall, cornered. Bo rested one hand around my waist and the other against the wall beside my head. Short breaths came in puffs from my lips, my lungs struggling for air after our minute kiss. Bo's point of view. "Now sprinkle the cheese on over it, but keep it spread out evenly," I murmured in her ear. I watched as a slight shudder racked her body, and her fingers sprinkled the cold cheese shreds on top of the pizza. I was standing behind her, my hands on either side of her body, leaning against the counter. My chin was resting on her shoulder, causing me to lean over slightly. She was wearing one of my shirts. Amabel and I had come to my house after spending another few hours at her place. Her grandparents would be shocked when they saw their water bill this month. The two of us had stayed in the shower for at least an hour. Both of us had been hungry after the claiming, so I promised I'd teach her how to make pizza. After Amabel had complained about there being no food at my house, I had to go grocery shopping. It was simple. I just tossed one of everything that looked good into my cart. Amabel placed pieces of pepperoni on top of the cheese and turned her head slightly toward me. What next, Mr. Alpha? I grinned at her nickname for me. Put it in the oven. I leaned back against the island as she bent over to slide the pizza into the oven. I still found myself wondering how I had gotten so lucky as to have Amabel as my mate. She was perfect. She was beautiful, had a feisty personality, and could be stubborn as hell when she wanted to. I can feel your eyes on me, she muttered, knowing I could hear. I chuckled and wrapped my arms around her waist when she stood up. Are you sure you don't want to head back upstairs? Every single part of me longed for her to say yes. Last night was fantastic, and I would give anything to be that close to her again. Somehow, I knew that Amabel and I would have many more moments like that. I was hoping it would be one of those nights. I'm sure. I want to actually sleep, she smirked. What if I promise not to wake you up as much? I tried to compromise. You won't be able to help yourself. She ducked out from underneath my arms and grinned, taking the steps 2 at a time up to my bedroom. A low growl erupted from my chest, and I darted after her, my wolf stirring simply by her being in my room. Amabel was lying on my bed, on her stomach, kicking her bare legs back and forth lazily. She raised her eyebrows at me when she saw the bottles of alcohol. Don't tell me that I'm in love with an alcoholic, she said. You're in love with a part-time alcoholic. I grinned and tugged my shirt off. I watched Amabel run her tongue over her lips and lean back against my pillows. Well, I guess that's too bad. I don't do alcoholics. Precisely. I crawled toward her on the bed, leaning over her figure. You do part-time alcoholics. Only if they're sexy. I'm your guy, I whispered huskily. She wrapped her legs around my waist, pulling me down on top of her. I groaned softly and pulled her close. Frustrated by the shirt between us, I took the large shirt off her and tossed it onto the floor. My hands brushed her skin, loving the way she felt beneath me. Damn. I wanted to be close to her again. I kicked off my jeans, letting them fall off my bed, and kissed her neck. God, just kiss me already, she breathed. Under one condition. Oh? We pick up where we left off while the pizza's cooking, I replied wickedly. Her fingers tangled in my hair. Just one? Unless we decide to make 2 pizzas, then we might have more time. Deal. I brought my lips down onto hers, earning a small sigh. I gently caught her bottom lip between my teeth. Her sighs became louder, and her legs tightened around my waist. My tongue brushed her bottom lip, and then I deepened the kiss, exploring her sweet mouth. Her hands cupped my face, keeping our lips glued together. Not being able to help myself, I ran my hands down her figure, feeling every curve. I was about to pull her closer when a knock on my door brought us both back from Cloud 9. Damn, I muttered, wanting to punch something. You should probably get that, she breathed. Why do I have to get it? I frowned. Do you want the visitor seeing me like this? He'd die happy, I sighed. I'll get the door. I pulled my jeans on and took the stairs 2 at a time to see who could possibly want something on a Sunday night. I cursed when I saw that it was Xavier. Hello to you too. He rolled his eyes. Damn it, I was in the middle of something, man, I groaned. Was it important? Extremely. He's lying, he just wanted to get cozy, came an amused voice behind me. Xavier grinned. I can see that you two are talking to each other again. Oh, we're doing much more than talking, I smirked. Amabel smacked the top of my head. Not anymore. Anyway, I just came to see how you guys were, Xavier said. We're great, I assured him. Now you two can get back to whatever you were doing. He and I shared a look. You two, Amabel muttered. I waved bye to Xavier, then shut and locked the door. Amabel was sitting at one of the bar stools, sipping a can of Diet Pepsi. I stood behind her and wrapped my arms around her waist, kissing her ear. Let's continue what we were doing earlier before we were so rudely interrupted, I murmured. I was serious when I said we wouldn't do much more than talking. She grinned teasingly. That's what you get for talking to Xavier about us. But you never said I couldn't. I frowned and tightened my hold around her waist. Please? Is Mr. Alpha actually saying please? She feigned shock. If it will work. Nope. I sighed. Suddenly, a great idea came to mind. I smirked evilly and pulled my shirt back off, tossing it over the back of one of the bar stools. Amabel noticed, and she turned to look at me. Damn, it's hot. I ran my fingers through my hair, something I knew she thought was attractive. I saw her chew her bottom lip, struggling to keep control over her wolf, and grinned my plan was working. I made a deep growl in my throat, knowing that my possessive growls affected her, and wrapped my arms around her waist, making sure that my chest was up against her back, something else I knew that she liked. Cut it out, Bo, she breathed. I just want to hug you, I protested innocently, and to show everyone that you're mine. All mine. We're the only ones in the room, she replied breathlessly. Then I want to show you that you're mine. I know that I'm yours. Then I'm simply hugging you. I ran my lips along the side of her neck, earning a small sigh. She took another sip of the Diet Pepsi and kept her eyes off of me. You're so amazing, I whispered, planting a kiss on her neck. And beautiful, I whispered again, planting another kiss. And perfect. I kissed her skin. Bo, I said no. She tried to push me away. I grabbed hold of the arm that was trying to push me away and brought it to my lips, slowly kissing each finger. Please? Bo. My lips brushed across her palm, and I kissed her fingers again, keeping my eyes locked with hers the entire time. I knew I looked determined, and Amabel was close to giving in. I promise I'll be gentle. I kissed up her forearm. She sighed. I really hate you sometimes. Is that a yes? Her lips crashed down onto mine in response. Chapter 8. Aren't you done yet? I heard Bo grumble. In response, I opened the changing room door. Bo was slouched on one of the benches flanking the room, his jacket hood up and arms crossed over his chest. I chewed my bottom lip to keep from grinning. He looked like a pouty 5-year-old. He glanced up when he heard the door open and quickly stood up. Finally, I can't be seen in this store. He grabbed my hand. Is that why your hood is up? So nobody will see you and your tough guy image will remain intact. I followed him out of the store. Precisely. Rolling my eyes, I let him drag me out of Gilly Hicks, then continue through the mall at a leisurely pace. Bo pulled his hood down, no longer needing to hide. I frowned at him and shook my head, sighing. Men are ridiculous, I stated. And why is that? You get self-conscious about being seen in a store, yet you can eat like 50 cheeseburgers in public. He tried to protest, but I cut him off. Yes, when I came here with Xavier, he ate a whole box of pizza. You were with Xavier? He was concealing fury. The alpha inside him was pissed that I was with another male wolf without him. Bo, he's our friend. Of course I was. But one more word and I'm sleeping on the couch, I threatened. Bo quickly shut his mouth, taking my threat seriously. What a perv. One side of my mouth quirked up, and I tiptoed to kiss him on the cheek. His wolf needed to be reassured that I belonged to him and that I knew it. A contented purr so low that only werewolf ears could pick it up vibrated through his chest, and he wrapped his arm around my waist, resting it on my hips as we walked. Despite Bo's protests, I convinced him to come with me to the mall instead of staying at his house all day. The guy he was, he'd wanted to stay in bed for the rest of the day. After a bit of persuasion, threats where Bo would rather burn in hell than have come true, I'd gotten him to go with me. It took even more coaxing to get him into Gilly Hicks, but being the sex-addicted guy he was, he'd agreed eventually. I know that my possessiveness turns you on, he said, pulling me closer to his side. Occasionally, I lied. The fact that he was so possessive and protective of me was a major turn-on. Bo knew this was dangerous for me. He had a bit of leverage, too. Not as much as my threats to sleep on the couch or sleep with sweatpants and a t-shirt on, but he knew how to charm his way to me. You realize that the bond lets me read your thoughts, right? He smiled smugly. My jaw dropped. You asshole, why didn't you tell me sooner? I didn't want you to read my mind. He tucked his hand in the back pocket of my jeans and the other in the front pocket of his. So, I said, walking closer to him, how does your pack bond work? He smirked. It's not going to be that easy to get answers from me, baby. I've got a few ideas on how you can earn answers, though. Bo trailed off, the smirk on his face growing. I jutted my bottom lip out in a slight pout and leaned my head on his shoulder. His stomach growled, and I laughed. I knew by experience that when Bo was hungry, he got cranky. My mate shot me an expectant and hopeful look, and I sighed. Yes, we can go eat, I agreed. He did a fist pump. Taco Bell? We ate at Burger King yesterday. So? He raised his eyebrows. I shrugged. One day all this food is going to catch up to you and you're going to be fat. Your 8-pack is going to be replaced by an 8-pack of blubber. Once that happens, you'd better not expect me to sleep with you. Bo let out a low chuckle. Baby, can you even imagine this body as fat? He gestured toward his Adonis-like figure, and I rolled my eyes. You're way too conceited. Yet, you still love me. He flashed me the cheeky smile. He knew I loved one that showed his dimples and made his eyes twinkle. I beamed back at him. Yet I love you. Then I smirked. But don't expect me to shower with you once your 8-pack is gone. He gave me a wicked look. Then I'll make sure it stays. What would you like? Came the bored voice of the cashier. Bo rubbed his chin thoughtfully. We'll take 13 crunchy tacos, 2 personal pan pepperoni pizzas, and he looked at me. What do you want, baby? The cashier's jaw dropped, most likely shocked that Bo was going to eat all of that. She quickly got her reaction in check and turned toward me. A crunchy taco without tomatoes, I said. Your total is $35.59. Bo handed her his credit card, and I took the cups she passed us to go get drinks. What do you want? I asked him. A Diet Pep, he started. Wait, I'll choose. You're eating 13 tacos, a soda on top of that would give you a heart attack. But I'll find a table too. Grinning victoriously, I filled my cup with Diet Pepsi and Bo's with iced water. I got a 2-person seat near a window and slid into the booth, sipping my soda. The carbonation sizzled on my tongue pleasantly and soothed my dry throat. Bo sat across from me, placing 2 trays on the table. One tray had a stack of 14 tacos, and the other had 2 pizzas piled up. I shook my head, unbelievably, and took my taco, pushing the tray toward my mate. He eyed the food hungrily and gave me another cheeky grin. How do you eat so much? I gasped. Don't judge. He shoved a whole taco in his mouth and swallowed it, most likely shifting his throat to his wolf so he could eat faster. I'm a growing guy. I need the energy to keep going all night long. I gave him a wicked smile. I have no idea what you're talking about. Remember? I'm sleeping on the couch tonight. His eyes widened, and the taco stopped in midair, a foot away from his open mouth. What? Why? Since when? You lied to me about the pack bond. And I glanced at the clock. Since around 3-ish. What? I thought you were going to earn the answers. I am not dirty dancing for you. Chains? Nope. Whips? I'm close to slapping you. Handcuffs? I tapped my chin. Possibly. Bo's eyes lit up, and one side of his mouth quirked up. Good thing I have a pair in the weapons room. I said possibly. I bet I can get you to say yes. His voice was low and husky. Keep control. Bell. I smacked Bo's hand as it reached over to try to grab my half-eaten taco. He cursed and scowled, taking a sip of his water. His eyes widened, and he spat the water out, coughing. I thought you got me a Diet Pepsi, he burst. You should be thankful. I'm trying to maintain your muscles. I smiled smugly. That's partially for yourself, not just for me. He called me on it. You know you love my body. And you know that you love mine, I countered. He grinned dirtily. Hell yeah. I found myself rolling my eyes once again. You are such a sex addict. Only when it comes to you, baby. My mate stuffed half of a taco into his mouth and washed it down with a gulp of water. Frowning, I realized that it was my taco he'd eaten. My eyes widened and my jaw dropped. You meanie, that was my taco, I cried. I love you. I frowned and stormed out of the restaurant, partially acting. Bo hated it when I was mad at him, and usually did something to fix whatever he'd done. Perhaps I could obtain the pack bond information from him using this method. I heard him calling my name and held back a smile. It was working. Bell, baby! I heard him calling and weaved through the shoppers, heading into Victoria's Secret. I grabbed a few random things from the shelves and dashed into a changing room. The shop was dimmed, so I could barely see anything. As soon as I closed the door behind me, I sensed Bo's presence inside the shop. Instantly, I was filled with a warm and fuzzy feeling. He'd come into Victoria's Secret willingly, to find me and make things better. He was adorable sometimes. My door shook for a little while, then a dark figure leapt over it. I started to scream, but a hand clamped over my mouth before a sound could escape my lips. Right before I started to panic, I took a deep breath through my nose, spicy and woodsy. Baby, this is you, right? I heard his voice. You scared me, I frowned. Thank God, that would have been embarrassing. Bo slumped down on the bench in the changing room, and his face lit up when he saw what I'd grabbed. Grinning dirtily, he held up a lacy black thong and a matching push-up bra. Would you mind modeling? He raised one of his eyebrows sexily. Don't get too excited, Mr. Alpha. I grabbed the lingerie and tossed it back on the bench. Those were just the first things I saw. It was random. You can still model. He tossed them back at me and leaned back, putting his hands behind his head and watching me. I crossed my arms over my chest and raised my eyebrows at him, leaning slightly on one hip. Bo crossed his arms over his chest, exaggerating his muscular biceps, and we had a stare down. Within a few seconds, I felt the corners of my mouth tug up, and Bo's lip quirked up on one side. His eyes danced with suppressed grins, and I'm sure that mine did too. It's not like I haven't seen you naked before, he finally said, trying to persuade me. Bo, we're in a crowded store. You wouldn't be able to control your wolf, I pointed out. He looked thoughtful for a second. Wait outside. I'll be right there. I eyed him curiously, wondering why his eyes were sparkling mischievously. Not wanting to argue with my mate any longer, I sighed and headed out of the changing room. One of the employees did a double take and almost had a heart attack when she saw Bo walk out of the changing room after me, holding a pair of lacy lingerie. Wait outside for me, baby. I'll be right there, Bo said, heading deeper into the store. My forehead crinkled slightly, but I listened to him anyway. Curiosity won out, and I gave in, wanting to know what Mr. Alpha was up to. He was taking an awfully long time, so I walked over to Jamba Juice and bought a strawberry wild smoothie. Sipping the sweet concoction, I waited outside Victoria's Secret for another few minutes before my mate came walking out. Bo was smiling smugly and holding 2 pink-striped Victoria's Secret bags. Both seemed to be filled, but red tissue paper hid the purchases from me. I grinned when I realized that Bo looked like the stereotypical boyfriend he was holding all of my shopping bags, including a few from Sephora, and he didn't seem to mind very much. Most likely because it gave him an excuse to hold the Victoria's Secret bags. Everyone would think they were mine. Why don't we head back to my place? My feet are killing me, he suggested. All right, what did you buy? He leaned over and gulped my smoothie. That shall remain a mystery for now. Please don't tell me that you're secretly into cross-dressing. That would be a definite turnoff. I took another sip of the smoothie. Plus, I don't think a thong would look very good on you. I would look sexy in anything, baby. Except lingerie, I countered. He sighed heavily. The one thing I can't pull off. I giggled. You are so weird. Bo put the bags in a compartment beneath the seat on his motorcycle, then slid onto it. I climbed on behind him and wrapped my arms around his waist. As usual, my grip around my mate tightened when he sped forward. A deep chuckle vibrating through his chest showed me that he had noticed the change in grip as well, and that he usually did notice it. I rested my head against his back, letting his body shield my face from the whipping wind. My eyes always watered if I looked straight ahead. After a while, I'd learned to use Bo's muscular body as a shield. My wolf was content and felt safe wrapped around our mate. I felt her purr inside me and knew that Bo noticed too. He responded with a low rumble in his chest. I was lying on the couch, munching on potato chips and sipping Diet Pepsi when Bo's head popped up from the side of the backrest. He had showered, insisting that he needed to rub off all of the cologne that had been doused in the stores. That was all he'd complain about while we shopped in Hollister, Gilly Hicks, and Abercrombie and Fitch. The strong smell. A pair of red and gray checkered boxers was hung low on his hips, and he was shirtless, exposing his 8-pack and defined muscles. I had a bad feeling about this. Turning my head toward him, I stifled a faux yawn. I can still read your thoughts, he chuckled. And why would you have a bad feeling about me wearing boxers? If it bothers you that much, I'll just take them off. Can't a girl eat potato chips in peace? I covered my face with a pillow. I thought you wanted to learn about the pack bond, but fine by me. He held up his hands in surrender and started walking away. I jerked up into a sitting position. Wait, I do want to learn. But you want to eat your potato chips in peace? A sly smile was on his face. Please, Mr. Alpha? I gave him a small pout and batted my eyelashes. He groaned. Don't give me that look. I climbed over the back of the couch and walked over toward Bo, sliding my hands up his chest and linking them around his neck. Please? You're going to have to earn it. His hands rested on my hips. I already said I'm not doing chains, whips, or handcuffs. That's when the smug smirk reached his face. You didn't say anything about modeling. My stomach dropped at the same time as my jaw. Now it all made sense. That was why Bo had stayed inside Victoria's Secret. He wanted me to model the lingerie he selected. That evil smirk on his face showed it all. If only I'd made the connection earlier, I wouldn't have to earn answers. I could have probably avoided it. You can't be serious, I breathed. On the contrary, he gave me a peck on the lips. I'm very serious. 1 answer per pair. You're making me feel like a prostitute, I frowned. Take it or leave it, baby. I sighed. You have an unfair advantage. Bo shrugged and twirled a lock of my hair around his finger. Yes or no? Yes, you asshole, I thought. I knew he heard my thoughts because a naughty grin slid onto his face. My stomach seemed to drop even more, just thinking about it. If he dared to take pictures, I'd strangle him to death. Lead the way, he gestured toward the stairs. Chapter 9. Miss Murdoch and Mr. Chandler, is there something you would like to share with the class? The teacher shot us stern looks. Bo turned his gaze from me and smirked at the teacher. Not particularly. My eyes widened, and I shot Bo a warning glance. He looked away smugly, crossing his arms over his chest, stupid, arrogant alpha. Annoyed that he hadn't answered me, I sent him a mind message. What are you doing? I thought toward him. Uh-oh, did Mr. Big and Mighty screw up? Xavier joined in from his history class. I'm his alpha, he can't tell me what to do, Bo thought smugly. I knew this was about that whole alpha thing. I sense a little couple's feud coming on. Rawr. Xavier chuckled internally. We're at school now. The other kids don't know that you're his alpha. I scolded. Well, the other kids can go, Bo started. Don't end that sentence, I warned. Aren't you two the cutest? Xavier gushed. I'm close to smacking you, I shot at Xavier. She has a really sore slap, Bo warned him. Sounds like you learned the hard way, Xavier mused. I did. It was not pleasant, but that night made up for it. Bo was shifting into guy mode with Xavier. What did I tell you about talking to other people about our private life? I growled at my mate. I sifted through Bo's current thoughts and grumbled. They were filled with images from last night of us, together. The fact that any other wolf in the pack could see those images right now filled me with dread, stupid, possessive mate. Wow, one of the unmated pack males couldn't control his thoughts. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my mate stiffen in his seat. His muscles were tense, and his jaw was clenched. God, his wolf was way too possessive. That's what I get for having an alpha as my mate. Mr. Chandler, where are you going? The teacher frowned at Bo. Bathroom, my mate said curtly. Exiting the room, his muscles were rippling. I have a feeling you're about to see his wolf, Xavier thought to me, seeing the situation through my eyes. Why would you think that? I wondered. I saw the teacher stiffen. Then, as if he were being controlled, he started to speak. His voice was calm, but his eyes were hard. Bo had better not be using his alpha power to control our teacher. Miss Murdoch, you are excused for the rest of the day, he choked out. Raising my eyebrows, I shoved my textbooks inside my bag and strutted out of class. All eyes were on me, and they were all filled with jealousy. I ran my fingers through my hair and walked through the deserted halls. I'm outside the entrance, Bo said through the mate bond. I can't believe you. I have no clue what you're talking about. That's called alpha power abuse. It's called using my resources wisely. I rolled my eyes and stepped out of the school. Bo was standing near the end of the stairs, his posture taut and rigid. Oh, crap. He turned when he heard my footsteps, and I gulped. I could see his wolf through his eyes. This was not good. My wolf was sending me warning messages, telling me that unless I wanted any of the humans to see a vast, 2-ton wolf pinning down a white wolf half its size right outside their school, I should run. So I did. I leapt over the staircase rail, landing at the side of the school. I could hear Bo sprinting after me, and I pushed myself to go faster. My legs burned from running at such an inhuman speed in my human body, but there was no way I'd ruin this dress by shifting now. My feet were killing me, and I knew that I'd get blisters from this. Why did I choose to wear flats today? Why couldn't I have chosen Converse or Toms or something? Those would be so much easier to run in. The forest was a dozen yards away now. I just had to get into the trees, then I'd be safe. Bo could catch me without any humans seeing us. Growls ripping through his chest were audible, and I could tell that he was using all the control he had to make sure he didn't shift in plain sight. Urging myself to run faster, I begged my wolf to pick up the pace. She stubbornly responded that my legs refused to run any faster and that my human body was way too weak. The forest was now about 3 feet away. I dashed through the trees and breathed a sigh of relief. The trunks were close enough together that it would be hard to see us. Not wanting to take any chances, I weaved further through the trees, ducking under logs and jumping over fallen branches. A rip and then a howl from behind me informed me that Bo's wolf had won out and that he'd shifted. Ugh. I was now a few miles into the forest and 1.5 miles away from the school. Just as I ducked under a branch, I was knocked to the ground by a giant, heavy, black wolf. Bo's wolf was ebony, and its fur was rough, yet soft. His stormy gray eyes were blazing with the need to claim me and show that pack member that I was his. He'd better not mark me. He was made of pure muscle. Not that I was complaining, but 5 tons of pure muscle on top of me was not pleasant. His hot breath was on the back of my neck, and I could feel it as he ran his snout down my back, then nudged me with his head. I smacked the top of his head. Get off. I'll shift. Just get your 5-ton self off of me. Bo let out a low growl, his alpha not happy about being ordered around, but he got off of me nonetheless. I glared at him for growling at me. but tossed my backpack next to a large tree. I pulled my dress off over my head and flung it on top of my bag, kicking my flats off next to it. "Turn around," I ordered him, those gray eyes never leaving me. He let out a snort and sat, still watching me. "I thought we already talked about this," I frowned. His wolf remained stubborn, sitting there with his eyes glued to my face. I stuck out my tongue when a low growl rippled through him, telling me to hurry up. Compromising slightly, I turned away from him to prepare to shift. Deeper growls rumbling told me that he wasn't happy that I'd turned. As soon as I had finished, I shifted into my wolf. Beau's point of view. I watched as Amabel shifted into a medium-sized she-wolf. Her coat was silky and white, and glimmered with every movement she took. My mate's chocolate-brown doe eyes were still her own. I knew that my gray eyes were probably my wolf's, so I concentrated and shifted them so they were my own. The gorgeous she-wolf in front of me gave a nod of approval when she saw my eyes. It amazed me that simply looking at Amabel could calm me down. I slowly stalked toward her, my tail flicking back and forth excitedly. I caught the mischievous look in her eyes right before she took off, weaving through the foliage. I growled in response and chased after her. My wolf was rejoicing we were with our mate. I was in my wolf form, and we were running at full speed. My mate was the only one I could run at full speed with, only she could keep up with my impossible speeds. Then I remembered that fool who was sifting through my mind as I thought about last night. He had hell coming for him. As soon as Amabel and I were done, I would most likely kick him out of the pack, leaving him a rogue, and give him a scar to remind him that he'd upset the wrong alpha. Nobody was allowed to think of my girl like that except for me. She was mine. I pounced, landing on top of her. We'd landed on a bed of daisies. It would do just perfectly. My wolf guided my snout up her spine, then followed her jawbone down to right below her snout. Her wolf purred, and mine vibrated with suppressed growls. I was about to flip her over, but she wiggled out from underneath me. A snarl ripped from my muzzle as she used her tail to flick my legs, leaving me lying on the ground. Amabel cuddled up against me and rested her muzzle on her paw, informing me that she just wanted to sleep and that I could wait. Letting out a cross between a huff and a sigh, I sprawled on top of her. My paw hung across her back, and I rested my head in the crook of her neck. "We'll pick this up tonight," I thought smugly. "Tonight you're having dinner with my family." "That's tonight?" My eyes jerked open. "Just go to sleep. They'll love you." Amabel's point of view. I dressed in a strapless white dress and matching white stilettos. The dress flowed down to just above my knee, and I gained about an inch in height from the heels. My dark brown locks flowed freely and shaded part of my face. I never bothered to wear makeup, but I'd run my tongue along my lips, making them glisten. Daphne came running into my room, grinning like a maniac. My older sister was beautiful. I knew that I said this a lot, but it was true. Comparing myself to her was like comparing the ugly duckling to the elegant swan. Daphne's silky brown hair cascaded down her back, and she wore a red dress that hugged her figure and featured a low neckline. The sleeves reached her elbows, and the hem fell to her knees. She had on a bit of makeup, but it was natural. "Oh my God, Belle, why didn't I know that you have a mate? I should have known that very second you two looked at each other and you were like, 'He's mine.' I should have been there." She pulled me into a huge hug and took a deep breath, exhausted from her small rant. "Really, Daph? He's mine?" I shook my head affectionately. Then Everett came dashing into my room. His jaw dropped, and his eyes widened. He was handsome too, another Murdoch swan. My brother had shaggy, golden brown hair, emerald green eyes, and sharp features. He was muscular and tall, wearing jeans and a button-down shirt. "Belle, why am I only finding out now by listening to our pea-sized brain of a sister that you have a mate? I should have been there that very second." He burst. "Rhett, you would have interrogated him and scared him." I sighed. "Of course I would have," he sniffed. "You're my baby sister." "She's a young woman, Rhett," Daph protested, gesturing to me. "She's 18. A legal adult. Still my baby sister." "Stop being such a jerk." Daphne turned to me. "Tell me all about him." Everett grumbled but crossed his arms over his chest and flopped down on my bed, secretly wanting to hear about his future brother-in-law. I don't see why he couldn't just admit that he was partially interested in my mate. "Well, his name is Beau. He's the alpha of the pack here. He's breathtakingly attractive." I started. "Alpha?" Daphne gasped. "Breathtakingly attractive?" Everett said at the same time as Daphne. "Yes and yes." I glanced in my mirror and readjusted my hair. Daphne's eyes were sparkling, as if she were already planning our wedding down to the very last detail. Everett was mumbling unintelligible things to himself. All I caught was baby sister, breathtakingly attractive, stupid guy, and have to make sure he deserves Belle. I knew that my older brother meant well, but he was sometimes too protective. Everett took a whiff of the air and grumbled, "I can really smell him on you, Belle." I shrugged and smiled. The fact that he could smell Beau on me formed warm, fuzzy feelings inside. I'm not sure why, but it did. He had a unique scent. It was like fresh soil mixed with a minty, peppery fragrance. It doesn't sound like it smells perfect, but it was intoxicating enough to make my mouth water. "So, is it official yet?" Daphne asked, pretending to look indifferent. I glanced at Everett, and a red tinge spread over my cheeks. "What? He has?" My brother jumped off the bed. When? I'm going to murder that." "God, calm down." "Rhett!" I shoved him back down onto the bed. It happened because the side effects came and I was in pain. "You should be thanking him, not planning his funeral." "But," he started. "I'm thinking about a yellow-themed wedding," Daphne mentioned. Both Everett and I gave her an, "Are you freaking kidding me? Look!" She slumped down under our gazes and raised her eyebrows. Finally, she crossed her arms over her chest and huffed. "What? I like planning weddings," she defended herself. "Daph, we met like a month and a half ago. Our wedding won't be for a while," I frowned. "And there's also the possibility that they won't get married," Everett added. "Oh, that possibility doesn't exist," I argued. Everett scowled and flopped down on my bed. He glared at his watch, and I found myself actually pitying the poor watch. My older brother had a frightening stink eye. I often melted beneath the smoldering look. "He will be late in 5, 4, 3, 2, he counted down, amusing himself by the thought of Beau being late. Right as Everett said 1, the doorbell rang and I shot him a smirk. I took the stairs 2 at a time and dashed for the door, calling, "I'll get it," to my grandparents. I could see Beau's silhouette behind the stained glass. I opened the door to reveal a nervous-looking Beau. He was wearing dark Levi's, an icy blue, long-sleeved button-down dress shirt, and nice shoes. His dark hair had a wind-blown look and fell over his face perfectly, making me want to reach out and brush it to the side. Beau's lips formed my favorite smile when he saw that I was the one who answered the door. "You look great," his eyes twinkled. "Absolutely stunning. I don't think your brother would approve of me saying that out loud, though. He used the mate bond." "Thanks, you too," I grinned. "I wish I could get you alone right now, but I don't think Everett would approve of that either." I saw my mate's lips curve into a mischievous grin, and his eyes flashed wickedly. I didn't even bother sifting through his thoughts. His eyes showed it all. "Oh, you must be Beau." My grandmother came shuffling out of the kitchen, beaming. "Amabelle's told us all about you." A faint blush spread over my cheeks, way to embarrass me. "Grandma?" Beau raised his eyebrows and chuckled. "Come inside, dear. Why were you letting him stand outside this whole time?" My grandmother scolded me affectionately. Beau stepped inside. "I'm fine, Mrs. Murdoch." "What a gentleman. Please, call me Betty." My grandmother gave me a subtle thumbs up, signaling that she approved of Beau. "Here's the boy that has my little princess daydreaming over her bowl of cereal." My grandfather wiped his hands off on a dish towel he was holding. "Call me Archie." He and Beau shook hands. "I'm Beau," my mate introduced. "Glad I rank higher than a bowl of cereal," Beau teased. "A Cheerio can't kiss. You only keep me around for my kisses?" "I'm hurt," he feigned hurt. "And for your 8-pack? You're obsessed with my abs." "They're impressive," I internally shrugged. "From now on, I'm going to be obsessed with your smile." "Why don't we continue our discussion over dinner?" my grandfather suggested. "Great idea." My grandmother rushed into the kitchen. "So, Beau, I hear that you're the alpha of the pack," my grandfather started. "That's pretty impressive considering you're 18. "Thank you." Beau was exceptionally polite. It warmed my heart that he was trying so hard to make a good impression on my family. "How many past girlfriends have you had?" Everett cut in. Beau's eyebrows raised. "None, actually." "And why is that?" I shot my older brother a warning look, which he ignored. I wished that I'd locked Everett up in his room, or gagged him until Beau was gone. He was being way too protective of me. "Until now, I haven't really found someone that I wanted to be with," Beau replied smoothly, yet his voice was filled with honesty. I could have sworn that Daphne shot me a wink from across the table. She definitely approved of Beau and kept whispering to me about how cute a couple we were. She nearly fainted when we twined our fingers together underneath the table. It kept making me blush. "So you have high standards?" "I don't have standards." "Then," he started, "the food is really good, don't you agree?" I turned to Beau. "It's delicious." I could see the relief clearly in his stormy eyes when they locked with mine. Everett's interrogation was over for now. I'm glad you like it. My grandmother beamed. It's my secret recipe. I don't think there's a single person in existence who wouldn't like your food, Bets. My grandfather took a bite of the steak to emphasize his point. It's true, I think this is the best steak I've ever eaten, Bo smiled. Thank you, dear. I'm glad you like it. My grandmother shot me a look that said he's a keeper. I took a sip of my water and failed to suppress a smile. My family loved Bo. Everett was still a bit protective and needed to complete the interrogation, but everyone else was happy with my mate. My grandmother thought he was as sweet as honey. Daphne was planning our wedding inside that strange head of hers, and my grandfather was just delighted that Bo could make me happy like this. I hadn't been in such an honestly good mood for a few months since the incident. That night seemed to have buried all of my happiness deep down in the dirt. It seemed as if Bo was slowly digging up the bubbly, pleasant feelings and memories. He could make me smile simply by being present. Until the night I'd met my dark god, I hadn't had a peaceful night of sleep. My family had started to fear that I was an insomniac. Then, that night, I actually slept through the nightmares. I'd woken up the next morning in my mate's arms and feeling better than I had in ages. What do you plan on getting a career in when you graduate from college? That is, if you plan on going to college, Everett started again. I plan on taking over my father's business. Is it a successful one? It's a billionaire business. I could tell that Everett wasn't expecting that because he looked up and subtly gulped. So you plan on going to college? Yes. Belle, can you help me with the dishes? Daphne called. Sure. I stood up and gave Bo a slight hand squeeze before letting go and walking out of the dining room. Don't leave me alone with him, Bo begged. Just keep on doing what you're doing. Rhett's running out of things to criticize. I walked into the kitchen to see that the dishes were already sparkling and resting in the dishwasher. Daphne was grinning and her eyes were sparkling. She didn't want help with the dishes. She wanted to talk about Bo, typical Daph. Holy crap! You guys are the cutest couple ever, and he's really into you, I can tell. Daphne was practically jumping up and down. Let me guess, you've already planned our wedding and funeral. Still working on your 1-year anniversary, she winked. I giggled. You're ridiculous. You know that? I'm just happy to see you happy, Belle. You haven't been the same since that night. I started to protest, but she cut me off. Don't think I haven't noticed. You're my younger sister. You put on a strong face, Belle, but I know that it's still killing you. Just be happy with Bo, okay? You deserve it. I am happy. Daphne smiled sadly. You won't be fully happy until you tell him the truth, Belle. Daph, I can't do that. He shouldn't have to carry the burden of my heavy past. He doesn't deserve that. Heck, I don't even deserve him. I don't know what I did right in my past life to deserve this, but I'm thankful that I did. Bo came into the kitchen looking slightly thoughtful, but also a bit squeamish from Everett's questions and accusations. I felt awful for leaving him with my older brother, but it was either get interrogated now or later. It would have only gotten worse if he continued avoiding Everett's questions, so I made sure that my brother got through with them now. Would you like to come over to my place? He asked. Sure. Daph, I'm going to go with Bo. I held back a blush. Okay, I'll tell grandmother and grandfather that you guys left. Thanks, Daphne. Bo smiled. Anything for my baby sister and her boyfriend. I groaned and dragged Bo out of the kitchen. My family could be so humiliating sometimes. Bo was chuckling softly as I pulled him out the front door. We got outside, and I frowned. His motorcycle was nowhere in sight. Where's your motorcycle? At home. I ran here, he shrugged. In your human form? Yeah, it's only a few miles. I can't run in heels. I scowled at my white stilettos. Don't worry. He scooped me up in his arms. I've got you. I feel like a damsel in distress. Bo grinned and started sprinting. We cut through the air so quickly that tears came to my eyes. I buried my face in my mate's chest, breathing in his mouth-watering scent. His shirt was crisp and had the faint smell of his skin. The only sound audible was the slight crunch every time Bo's feet touched the forest floor. That only happened every few seconds because his strides were long and each leap was packed with force. He was impossibly strong. He and his wolf were both pure muscle. His heart rate was regular, having grown accustomed to the few-mile runs. After about half a minute, it sped up slightly, because it wasn't used to having my weight on top of it. It was like a double workout for him. As soon as we got to his house, Bo scanned his thumb and unlocked the door, sliding the stones back into place again. I kept my head tucked in the crook of his arm, too comfortable to move. I could hear Bo locking the door, then his footsteps as he ascended the stairs. My mate put me down on top of his bed and started to unbutton his shirt. Yawning, I changed out of my dress and tossed it to the ground. I kicked my stilettos off too and flicked the covers back, climbing into his bed. A sigh left my lips as I sank into the mattress, and I heard Beau's low chuckle. He changed and crawled under the blankets next to me. I twisted around so that I was facing him and rested my head on his bicep, wrapping my arms around his waist from the side. Beau pulled me closer and stroked the small of my back. "Your brother is ruthless," he groaned. "Red is way too protective," I agreed. Beau seemed to be in deep thought. He twisted a lock of my hair around one of his fingers and stroked the palm of my hand, the one wrapped around his waist. His stormy gray eyes seemed to stare off into space, in their own little world. "Do you think they like me?" he wondered. "Are you serious?" "They love you," I replied honestly. "You're not lying, are you?" I propped myself up on my elbow so I was looking down at him. "I promise." I leaned down and brushed my lips across his, keeping the kiss short yet sweet. It was these kisses that we shared that usually meant more than our more passionate ones. Cuddling up into him again, I smiled to myself. Beau held me close as we both slowly drifted off into sleep. Chapter 10. Beau's point of view. "You're ruining the flavor!" Amabel burst. "But it tastes better like this," I protested, sprinkling powdered sugar over the food. "You drowned your waffle in the syrup. That's like eating syrup soup with tiny pieces of waffle in it. It's supposed to be waffle soup with tiny bits of syrup." She paused and frowned, rethinking what she just said. "Wait, I meant it's supposed to be a super light coat of syrup over the waffle. Or something like that. You know what I mean?" While she was ranting on and on about putting too much syrup on my waffles, I secretly took the bottle of maple syrup and drenched the golden brown patty on her plate. I would get hell for this, but it was definitely going to be worth it. After her plate looked like a plate of gooey soup, I stealthily reached over and put the bottle of syrup back on the counter where Amabel had placed it. "But look at your waffle." I gestured toward her syrup-soaked waffle. Her jaw dropped and her eyes widened. I was biting the inside of my lip extremely hard to keep from laughing. My mate looked so confused. Her mouth kept opening to say something, then closing again. She looked slightly like a fish. "What?" She glanced between the syrup bottle, her plate, then her eyes landed on me accusingly. "You drowned my waffle." I raised my hands up in a surrender position. "You have absolutely no proof." She smirked and pointed to a small sprinkle of powdered sugar on the side of the plate, then at the bottle with a bit of powdered sugar on the handle, and finally to my fingers. They were tinted white with the powdered sugar. "Fuck," I muttered. "You owe me a waffle." She crossed her arms over her chest and pouted, looking unbelievably cute in the process. "Deal. Can I eat your waffle too?" "Knock yourself out." She pushed her plate toward me. I leaned over and kissed her on the cheek, causing her to squeal and yelp. "Your lips are all sticky," she squirmed. "Can you help me clean them?" I gave her a cheeky smile that I knew she loved and couldn't resist, and leaned over to wrap my arms around her waist. Amabel just jutted her bottom lip out in an adorable pout and scowled at her waffles, doing all that she could not to look at my face. I pulled her onto my lap and fingered the hem of her large shirt, brushing my thumbs across her thigh. I loved the feel of Amabel's skin. It was soft, smooth, and warm. "Please, baby." I twisted her around so she was straddling me. Her chocolate brown eyes flickered down to my lips, and she groaned slightly, knowing that she'd lost. The edges of my lips quirked up, and I held her against me by her hips. Amabel leaned forward and cupped my face in her gentle hands, putting her lips a breath away from mine. My wolf purred and growled when I felt her warm tongue glide over my lips, sweeping over the sweet syrup. When I couldn't help it anymore, I pulled her more tightly against me and pressed my lips to hers. I felt my mate smile knowingly against my mouth, but she kissed me back. I twined my tongue with hers and glided over her tongue, tasting the sweetness. Amabel's lips were like heaven. They were full, moist, and supple. I found myself always hungry for more of her kisses. My mate tasted like all good things in existence, combined, as if she were made specially for me. Don't even get me started on her scent. It was intoxicating, always making me want more and always tempting me, teasing and drawing me in. She moaned softly when my hands skimmed down her sides. Her body was perfectly chiseled, like a Greek goddess. Whenever we got close like this, our bodies seemed to mold together, as if they were created for the other. Every line of our figures was pressed together, alerting my friend downstairs. "Do you still want to eat breakfast?" Amabel asked between kisses. "I have something else in mind." I was breathless, but couldn't pull back. "So do I." She wrapped her legs more tightly around my waist, bringing us closer together, and the fact that only a small lace panty covered her lower body intrigued me and turned me on. I held her against me and stood up, staggering out of the kitchen and up the stairs. Amabel, knowing I was breathless, skimmed her lips down my jawbone, and rested her chin on my shoulder. I took deep breaths, trying to regain my regular heartbeat. Both our heartbeats had accelerated, and I grinned when I felt that Amabel's heart was racing as fast as mine. Her lips brushed the side of my neck, then I felt her freeze and tense up. A small gasp was audible. "What is it?" I murmured. "No," she whispered, her voice shaky and cracking slightly. "Baby, what is it? Did I hurt you?" I was starting to worry. How did they find me? I was really starting to worry. Frowning, I looked around. Amabel must have seen something outside the window. Wait, somebody found her. What the hell was going on? I carried her upstairs to my bedroom and locked the door behind me, seating her on my bed. She sat cross-legged and hugged one of my pillows to her chest. "Baby, what's going on? Who found you?" I crawled over to her on the bed and hugged her to my chest. "They're not supposed to be here." Tears were pouring down her beautiful face, which had paled immensely. "Who's not supposed to be here?" "Bo, I'm scared." Her voice was cracking, and I watched one of her salty tears catch at the edge of her shaky lips. Amabel clutched the front of my shirt, holding me closer to her. She was crying silently. I could feel her body shaking and felt the wet tears drip onto my shirt. What had my mate so frightened? I wrapped my arms around her waist and held her to me, letting her break down in my arms. "Shh, don't worry." I wiped her tears away with my thumb, brushing it across her cheeks. "Bo, you don't understand. He wasn't supposed to find me." She pulled back and met my eyes. I got choked up at the sight of my mate. Her eyes were red, and her lashes were clumped together and wet from her tears. Amabel's rosy cheeks were pale and tear-stained. How had my glowing goddess turned into a broken girl in less than a minute? I would do anything to help her and make things better. "Amabel," I spoke gently, "tell me what's wrong. I want to help." A few more tears trickled down her cheeks. "I can't. I have a heavy past, Bo. You don't understand." Her voice came out as barely a whisper. "I can't put part of the burden on you." "Baby, just tell me," I said, hating to see her like this. "I saw him." I was about to ask her what she was talking about, but she paled suddenly, then lost consciousness. "Thanks for coming. I didn't really know who else to call." I rubbed the back of my neck uncomfortably. "Don't worry about it. I was serious when I said anything for you two." Daphne brushed a few stray hairs off of Amabel's forehead. "So why is my little sister unconscious?" "I have no idea. We were just, doing stuff. Then she saw something outside and started freaking out. She was talking about these people who weren't supposed to find you guys. Then she started mumbling about some guy who wasn't supposed to find her. She said she saw him." Daphne's eyes widened and her lips parted in a gasp. "They weren't supposed to find us. How did they find us?" "You sound exactly like her," I grumbled. "Bo, you have to understand that my siblings and I have a really heavy past. For some reason, Amabel doesn't want to tell anybody. She thinks it will be a burden on them if she talks about it. My younger sister puts up a believable wall and a strong exterior, but she's breaking down inside." I contemplated this. How had I not known and realized that Amabel was hiding something from me? What kind of a mate was I if I didn't help her or understand what was wrong? "What happened?" I asked after a while. Daphne took a deep breath before meeting my eyes. "Have you heard of the Oak Pack?" "I'm pretty sure that everyone has." A few months ago, the Oak Pack had been slaughtered in cold blood. The Alpha of the Spruce Pack had wanted the Alpha's youngest daughter as his mate, but the Oak Pack Alpha refused. Furious that he had been denied, the Spruce Alpha attacked the Oak Pack and murdered every single member. "Yeah," I replied. Daphne gulped and looked down at Amabel before answering. "The Oak Pack Alpha was our father. We barely managed to escape that night." My jaw dropped and I felt my eyes widen. "What?" "Amabel refused to mate with the Spruce Pack Alpha, so they attacked us. He made sure that Amabel escaped, so she could still mate with him." My blood boiled at the thought of any other male mating with Amabel. She was mine, and only I could touch her like that. Only I could kiss her like that. Only I could love her like that. If any other person even thought of doing those things to my mate, I would make sure that they died a horrible, painful death. I growled a deep, low, furious growl, causing my mate to stir. Amabel's eyes fluttered open, her wolf sensing my pure, fiery anger. My eyes saw red, and my jaw was clenched. Every one of my muscles was tense and rippling. My body shook from all the anger I was experiencing. I needed to claim Amabel right now. Only that would calm me down. God, alphas are so possessive. Daphne rolled her eyes. "I'll be at my house. There is absolutely no way I am staying for this. I don't want to find out if my sister is a moaner or a screamer." I clenched the side of the bed and remained frozen and tense, waiting until Daphne left the house before claiming Amabel. Growls and snarls were ripping from my chest, and I was shaking from the amount of control necessary to hold myself back. She sat up and sifted through my mind, figuring out what was going on, as Daphne closed and locked the front door behind her. As soon as it was closed, I lunged for my mate. Nothing could stop me. "Beau," she gasped. "You are mine," I whispered into her neck, pulling her shirt off actually. It was my shirt. "I know I am," she breathed. "I'm guessing that Daph told you about my past." Amabel could probably sense my anger, jealousy, and possessiveness rolling off of me in waves. She lay beneath me, willing, knowing that this was the only way I'd calm down. My fingers brushed the curves underneath her bra, then ran down her body. They skimmed her flawless skin and made her pant. I parted her legs and stroked the inside of her thighs, slowly moving higher. Amabel moaned, shudders racking her body. "Only I can touch you like this." I nibbled the raw, unexplored flesh of her inner thigh, then soothed it with my tongue. "Only I can make you feel like this." "Beau, please," she whimpered, her hands clenching the blankets tightly, as if they kept her anchored to earth. I planted hot, lingering kisses from her knees, up and in her thighs, up her flat stomach, at the curve of her breast, up her shoulder, then in toward her collarbone. She whimpered with desire and lust, panting slightly. I took her collarbone between my teeth and nibbled on it, making her groan. "Only I can make you moan like that." I ran my fingers down her body again and was rewarded with louder moans. "Only I can make you moan so loudly." "Beau," she pleaded. "Who do you belong to, Amabel?" I ran my tongue down her neck. "You," she breathed, her heartbeat going wild. "Who do you belong to?" "You," she cried. "Good." Amabel crushed her lips to mine desperately and wrapped her legs around my waist. I held her closer and ran my tongue over her lips. She tugged at my shirt, and I arched my back to help her. Once my shirt was off, I could feel almost every line of our upper bodies against each other. Amabel's bra was still on, but I was satisfied for now with the amount of exposed skin. I picked her up and lay her down in the middle of the bed before putting my hands on either side of her head. Our legs were tangled together, but I had propped myself up so that there was about a foot of space between our upper bodies. Not being able to help myself, I slammed my lips down on top of hers with a bruising pressure. Her shaky fingers fumbled with the button on my jeans. Once the button was undone, she pushed them off of me and left them lying on top of our shirts in a heap on the floor. I kissed her again and again, each kiss becoming more desperate, more rough, more intense, and more breathless. Amabel's fingertips skimmed up my back before tangling in my hair and massaging my scalp. I groaned and grasped her hips with a bruising pressure. She gasped, but didn't object. I lined her hips with mine and ground against her, receiving a loud moan. "You belong to me, Amabel Murdoch," I murmured. In response, my mate clenched her hands into fists, weaving them into the blankets we were lying on. Her chest was heaving up and down, and her eyes were closed. I kissed her shoulders, moving up toward her lips. Her throat felt so raw and innocent beneath my lips. I unclasped her bra and tossed it over the side of the bed. This earned me a gasp, and a satisfied smirk spread across my face. My fingers stroked her bare back, as if it were as necessary as breathing. "That alpha won't dare touch you," I whispered coldly. Amabel's eyes jerked open. She knew what I was going to do. Before she could say anything, I took a bit of flesh from her chest between my teeth. I bit down extremely hard, earning a blood-curdling scream, then a moan as the pleasure of my mark flowed into her. My mark drew blood, which I licked off. Amabel's moans increased, and her legs tightened around my waist. I soothed the mark with my tongue, and when my saliva mixed with her blood, it formed the pearl-white mark that only an alpha could make on his mate. "You're mine," I growled before claiming her. Chapter 11. Station a few guys around my house. Amabel and I will stay here for the whole day. Conduct a sweep throughout our territory. Question and/or kill any rogue or non-pack member you come across. "There is no room for error here, Xav," came the low, murmuring voice of my mate. My eyes fluttered open, and I took in my surroundings, not remembering much from the night before. I was tangled up with my mate, lying in a mass of fluffy blankets and feathered pillows. Beau's arm was around me, and the other held his phone, which he was softly muttering into so as not to wake me up. A thin red blanket was pulled over the two of us, blocking the chilly air. Memories came flooding back, seeing the spruce alpha, fainting, waking up to see Beau furious and Daphne smirking, then Beau claiming me once again. I sat up slightly and propped myself up on my elbow. The blanket dropped, and I quickly grabbed it, holding it to my chest. I felt Beau's gaze on me as I ran my fingers through my mussed hair, working out the knots. Call me if you guys get anything, Bo ordered before clicking his phone off and tossing it to the other side of the bed. A warm, muscled hand wrapped around my waist and pulled me against a solid chest. My breaths came out softly, yet evenly, as I linked my arms loosely around my mate. His lips pressed a light kiss on my forehead before slowly gliding down and finding my mouth. Our kiss was nothing like last night's desperate ones. This kiss lasted for a few seconds before I pulled back and opened my eyes again. Bo's stormy gray orbs held concern, frustration, and just a bit of leftover anger, showing how furious he'd been when he learned about my past. Claiming me had only calmed him down slightly, he'd be extra protective and possessive today. "Are you okay?" he murmured against my skin. "I'm fine." It was a slight lie. "What about you?" "Of course I'm all right. Why wouldn't I be? I can still see the anger in your eyes," I said softly, brushing my fingers down his jaw. "Don't lie to me." He groaned and leaned back against the pillows, pulling me down on top of him. "Of course you'd be worrying about me at a time like this." My fingertips traced the lines on his chest. Something I knew calmed him down. "I've never seen you so angry." "I don't think I've ever been that angry." His hand subconsciously stroked my bare back. "I won't let him have you, baby. I don't know what I'd do if I ever lost you." His voice had become a hoarse whisper. "I'd die instead of mating with someone else." I breathed honestly. His eyes flickered to mine. "Don't say that. I'd rather you mate with someone else than die. I couldn't handle your death. I'd die too." Bo rolled over so I was underneath him and brushed his fingers across my bottom lip. My hands moved up to cup his face, and I smoothed my thumb over his cheekbones before pulling his face down toward mine. Our lips met and moved in sync, keeping rhythm with each other. My lips parted when his tongue brushed my lip, and he traced his tongue on the inside of my teeth. I wrapped my legs around his waist, pulling him down closer to me so every line of us was pressed together. Bo's wolf purred, and he kissed me harder. I gasped as his hands, unashamed and confident, stroked every inch of my bare skin, leaving me tingling and wanting needing more. Unfortunately, I knew that we couldn't get carried away. There were more pressing matters that needed attention, and Bo had a significant amount of responsibility as the alpha. "Bo," I breathed reluctantly, "I have to take a shower." My excuse was pitiful, but it was the first thing that came to mind, and it was also true. I honestly did need to take a shower, considering I didn't get a chance to have a bath last night. My mate's eyes glinted wickedly, a look that I'd come to familiarize myself with. "So do I," he said in a voice that made the coincidence sound unexpected. Of course, Bo would figure out a way to maintain our intimacy. Before I had the chance to protest, I was lifted into the air, my legs still wrapped around his waist. Bo stepped over the pile of clothes we'd tossed off last night and made his way over to the bathroom, carrying me as if I weighed as much as a feather. The shower was made of glass. My mate sandwiched me between the cool tile and his own body as he twisted the knobs. Steaming hot water shot out of the faucet, jolting my nerves and massaging out my knots. Smirking, I slid out from Bo's grasp and pumped shampoo out of a bottle, working it into my tangled hair. My back was to the alpha, and I knew that he was making that half-upset, half-playful look that appeared when I slipped right out of his fingers. That predatory look that I'd learned to fear, slightly and partially desire. I gasped as I was twirled around and jerked against a muscled body. The hot water flowed through my hair, washing the shampoo out, and cascaded down my back and over my shoulders to trickle down my chest. "Bo, we can't get carried away," I protested numbly. "You have things to take care of. A lot of responsibility is on you. Baby, just enjoy the moment. Xavier is taking care of everything. Today is for you to relax." "Are you sure?" I breathed. "I'm positive. Everything is taken care of." "Then kiss me, you idiot." His lips crashed down onto mine with enough pressure to make me stagger backwards, but I didn't. I remained firmly in place, anchored against him by our arms wrapped around each other. The water pounded against both of us, and he sucked a droplet of water from my lips. I reached up and massaged the shampoo into his hair, finishing the job for him. Bo groaned and grasped my hips more tightly before lathering body wash over my bare figure, an excuse to run his lusting fingers over every inch of me. The spicy soap blurred my senses, and I found myself getting caught up in the moment. The scent of his soap seemed to be soaked into his skin. It made me slightly giddy to know that the spice would be worked into my scent. "God, you're so beautiful," he murmured between kisses. My fingers trailed down to his back, working the soap into his smooth, warm skin. Everything about Bo had become familiar to me, comforting. His deep voice, one that could melt me so easily, seemed to caress my ears almost teasingly. His smooth skin, always so warm and beckoning, as if begging me to run my fingertips across it. His rough, calloused fingers that explored my body with the confidence of an alpha, the kind of confidence that was nowhere near arrogant, yet demanded attention. His dark, silky hair that my fingers itched to tangle and twist in, the way it fell lazily and effortlessly over his handsome face. His soft lips, how they seemed to be made just for mine. They were like two pieces of a puzzle moving in sync, molding together, sliding against each other. His intoxicating scent, the one of spice and warm earth. Beau slipped his tongue into my mouth, his hands gliding up and down my body. The water against my skin made it easier for his hands to move, sliding almost effortlessly over my nude body. I reached up and grabbed the shower head, rinsing off the soap suds, all the while keeping our lips locked. He took the shower head from me and let the water trickle down my body, gently, slowly, chasing away the soap. The water burned slightly, but the burn felt good. It reminded me of the burn that swept over my skin whenever my mate and I made contact, jolting me awake and leaving trails of fire. I reached over the side of the shower and snatched a fluffy white towel to wrap around myself. Beau did the same, tying it loosely around him. The towel hung low on his waist, revealing his hip bones. I tied the towel around my chest, letting the edge of the fabric reach just below my bottom. Beau pulled away from our kiss long enough to sweep me up into his arms, holding me bridal style. He nudged the shower door open with his foot, and I let out a small gasp. The outside air was cold compared to the steamy air inside the shower. My mate chuckled and held me closer to his chest, walking us over to his closet. My eyes widened and my jaw dropped when I saw that the closet had two parts. One side had Beau's clothes, and the other was stocked with women's clothes, all my size and style. "Surprise," he grinned, pressing his lips to my cheek. "I figured you pretty much live here already, so why not keep clothes for you here?" "How much did it cost?" I breathed, taking in all of the clothes. "Don't worry about that, remember? I'm heir to a billion-dollar company. I make billions per year. Money isn't a problem," he assured me, placing me down. Oh my God. I stood on my tiptoes and pressed my lips to his, wrapping my arms tightly around his neck. Beau's arms held me against him, and his lips moved against mine. My body lit up with fireworks, a sensation that occurred every time we kissed or touched. His presence seemed to trigger the sparks. "By the way," he mentioned between kisses, "do you want to move in?" My lips curved up against his. "I'm always here. I don't think it would make much of a difference." "I know, but just officially." Our kisses were getting sloppier as we struggled to talk at the same time, neither of us wanting to let go. "Of course I do. Do you think your brother will be pissed?" "Most definitely." "Lovely," he grumbled sarcastically. My towel fell to the ground, an action caused by Beau's wandering hands. I yelped and broke the kiss to snatch it up again and hold it against my chest. I know, it was silly. I was just completely exposed in the shower, less than 5 minutes ago, but I get self-conscious if I'm the only one naked. "Now isn't the best time to be modest. You've already alerted my friend downstairs," Beau said. Rolling my eyes, I threw my towel at him. "There. Happy?" His eyes gleamed as they took me in. "Very. Delighted. Actually." I smirked and rummaged through a few drawers, looking for pants. Beau had only stocked lacy thongs with matching bras. I sighed and decided on a pair of dark blue lingerie. I tugged on the pants and clasped the bra, hearing Beau's groan. "Can we stay here today?" I turned to face my mate, who had pulled on a pair of gray boxers. "Whatever you want." I pulled on a pair of black sweatpants that hugged my thighs and flared out over my feet. The waistband folded over, and it hung low on my hips. Chewing my lip and looking through the racks of clothes, I decided on a light blue racerback tank top. It clung to my torso like a second skin. I knotted my wet hair loosely in a bun, a few strands escaping to frame my face. Beau had pulled on loose, light gray sweatpants and a white wife beater that did nothing to conceal the definition of his chest or 8-pack. I found myself wondering how I ever got so lucky to have him as my mate. He wrapped his arms around me and ducked his head down to kiss every inch of my face, his lips lingering near my mouth. "What are you thinking about?" "I don't know what I ever did to deserve you," I murmured. "Maybe I was a saint in my past life." My mate looked incredulous. "What you did to deserve me? Hell, I'm the one who should be wondering that. You deserve better than me and I know it. I try to be the perfect guy for you, but I know that you deserve better. I've got to be the luckiest guy in existence to have you as my mate." "You are the perfect guy," I whispered. "Damn it. I love you," he said, and kissed me. "I'll never let go, Jack. I'll never let go." Silent tears trickled down my cheeks as I saw Jack float off the iceberg, slowly sinking into the depths of the ocean. Rose, shivering and chattering, let out a sob before swimming over to the captain and blowing his whistle, attempting to get the attention of the rescue team. "Oh my God," I cried. "How could they let Jack die?" Beau's eyes were glassy as they watched the scene before him. "Damn it. I hate this movie. It makes me feel like crying. Why are we watching the Titanic? Why not Mission Impossible or something? I freaking love this movie." I sniffed, cuddling into Beau's side and wrapping my arms around his waist. "You're bawling your eyes out," Beau observed. "Because Jack just died. Crap, I hate the stupid director. How could he just let Jack die? He and Rose are supposed to survive the Titanic, have a lot of steamy makeout sessions, get married, have kids, grow old, have grandkids, have less steamy makeout sessions because that would be gross, then die holding hands or something. He's not supposed to die before her. Why couldn't they both fit on the fucking raft?" I sobbed, shouting slightly at the screen. "I don't get why it's so sad," Beau grumbled. My jaw dropped, and I whirled around to face him. "Look at it this way. What if it were you and me as Rose and Jack? Wait. No, no, no. What if I were Jack and you were Rose? We made that promise to never let go and all that adorable shit. Then you look at me and I'm dead. I'm just a dead body floating in the icy cold water. Then you get all pissed at yourself because you promised that you'd survive so you can't die, but you still love me more than anything. That's what's so freaking sad." I sat cross-legged and reached over to grab the tub of chocolate ice cream, feeling Beau's eyes on me. The chocolate melted on my tongue and felt just right. Ice cream and the Titanic are always paired together perfectly. "God damn it, you're making me cry!" Beau blinked his eyes furiously, looking away from me so I wouldn't see his involuntary tears. "Can I take your name, miss?" Rose looked at the man. "Dawson. Rose Dawson." More tears dripped down my cheeks, and I shoveled another scoop of chocolate ice cream into my mouth. I scooped up another spoonful and twisted to shove the delicious ice cream into Beau's mouth. His eyes lit up when the chocolate hit his tongue, and he took the spoon from me, eating more and more ice cream. "Wait, did they get married? I don't remember them getting married." Beau paused to glance at the television. "That's what makes it so adorable." I wiped the tears out of my eyes. "I still don't get it," he said, taking another bite. "Okay, so after I died and all that horrible, heartbreaking, awful, unnecessary stuff, you got saved and you were hauled back to the savior ship. There's a guy walking around, taking people's names to see who survived. Remember, in this story, I'm you and you're me. So the guy comes up to you and says, 'What's your name, miss?' And you respond, 'My name is Amabel Chandler.' It's so sad. She probably would have been Rose Dawson if the stupid director hadn't killed off Jack." I was frowning by the end of my rant. Beau looked thoughtful. For what reason? I had no idea. His gaze was on me, as if contemplating something important, something ginormous. Raising an eyebrow at him, I turned back to the television screen. It was focused on the old Rose, as she died in her sleep. The pictures of her on the horse and at the carnival were shown, causing my tears to fall more steadily. I lost it when she died. It showed her walking through the Titanic again, Jack waiting for her at the top of the stairs. She was young again, and she and Jack looked just as in love as they had been so many decades ago. I gasped for breath, sobbing relentlessly and wiping away my tears. "That's so happy," I blubbered. "Still don't get it. She died and was reunited with him." I burst. "I thought she got remarried." "She did." "Then what about her husband?" he questioned. "She never loved him," I sniffed. "That was just to carry on the name Dawson or something. Rose has always loved Jack more than anything. She has a grandkid." "So? So when she and her husband were having sex or whatever, she was pretending he was Jack? Or she just didn't care and wished he were Jack? That is some messed up shit." Beau frowned. "Don't ruin the movie for me." I snatched the tub of ice cream back as well as the spoon. "This movie makes me wish I were Rose." "Hey, but then you'd be with Jack," Beau burst angrily. "Don't be a douche." I gave him a peck on the lips. "Obviously, you would be Jack." "That sounds much better. Do you think it's better in a car or in a bed? The shower is okay, but soap gets in your eyes. Can we try?" Beau started. "No, we are not making love in a car," I said firmly. "But they make it look all cool. The glass is all steamy and they're both panting and whatnot. Please?" My mate rewinded to try and get back to the scene. I grabbed the remote. "Well, in case you don't remember, you only have a motorcycle. You have a truck." "I share the truck with my family," I argued. "I don't want them to know we banged in their truck." Beau nodded. "Yeah, your brother hates me enough." "He doesn't hate you." "Oh, really? He's just really protective of me." I shrugged. Yawning, I put the empty tub of ice cream on the table and stretched. Bo pulled me against him on the couch so we were spooned together, nibbling the back of my neck. His hot breath sent tingles down my spine, making me shudder. I reached over and pulled the soft, white Afghan over us. I snuggled against his hard chest and sighed, satisfied. His arms snaked around me, and warm fingers brushed a sliver of skin beneath the hem of my tank top. Jack and Rose kind of reminds me of the two of us, I murmured. Why? I don't know. We're in love, we're young, we'd do anything for each other. You know I'd go to hell and back for you, he breathed. I love you. I love you too, Bo muttered before I drifted off into a pleasant sleep. Chapter 12. Sir, we have something. I'll be there in a few minutes. Bo clicked the phone off and reached over me to place it on the table. I heard him exhale and press his lips to my shoulder before sitting up. I opened my eyes to see him running his fingers through his hair. A small smile slid onto his face when he saw that I was awake. Where are you going? I murmured. The pack found a non-pack member on our territory. I'm going to question him now, he explained. You mean we're going to question him now? I sat up and pulled the hem of my tank top down. It had edged up to right below my navel while we were sleeping. Baby, I don't know if that's a good idea, Bo said, avoiding my eyes. Why? I challenged. I'm different when I question people, he said, rubbing his face. I don't want you to be scared of me. I think I've seen your worst, I said dryly, remembering the night before. Besides, I'd just follow you once you left the house. Bo groaned and searched my face, trying to tell if I was bluffing or not. You're so stubborn. He leaned forward and pressed his lips to mine, telling me that I could come. I smiled and kissed him back, breaking our kiss before we both got caught in that daze and lost track of time, something that seemed to be happening more often. We should probably change too, Bo whispered. I don't want anyone else seeing you in a tank top. Laughing, I shoved him away and climbed off his lap. You're ridiculous. I ruffled his hair and fled up the stairs, hearing his footsteps behind me. Right as I walked through the walk-in closet, 2 arms wrapped around my waist and pulled my shirt off. So I turned and did the same to him. Grinning, I twisted his shirt into a rope-like shape and held both ends, wrapping it around his neck, pulling it toward me. Bo's head was tugged toward my face. I pressed my lips to his, dropping the shirt and resting my hands on his chest instead. He grinned against my lips and brushed his fingers against the small of my back, tracing small circles. Bo deepened the kiss. Reluctantly, I pulled away. We should probably get dressed now. Probably. Bo sighed and let go of me, letting his hands linger at my waist. I pulled on a pair of dark, skinny jeans, a white tank top, and a purple blazer with long sleeves. I tied my tangled hair up in a sloppy bun, not bothering to make it look very nice, and slipped my feet into light gray Toms. Bo was wearing the usual uniform jeans, a t-shirt, and black boots. Come on! Bo took my hand in his and kissed my temple, letting his lips linger. Hey, Belle! Xavier flung his arm around my shoulder, ignoring the glare he got from Bo. Hi, Jav. I smiled warmly. Yeah, hello. Bo shoved Xavier's arm off of me and replaced it with his arm, pulling me closer to his side. I rolled my eyes, but hung my arm loosely around his waist. Xavier just chuckled to himself and walked with us to the small concrete bunker. Both Bo and I raised our eyebrows at him, wondering what was so funny. You are so whipped, man, he smirked at Bo. This time, Bo rolled his eyes and simply hung his thumb in one of the belt loops on my jeans, lazily keeping his arm around me. I smiled smugly when he didn't deny Xavier's accusation. When the scent of the wolf inside hit me, I staggered back and froze. My eyes widened, and the pain in my chest started up again. My heart pounded and my ears rang. It couldn't be him. Small pants escaped my lips, and I could see Bo's worried face, see his mouth moving, his frantic eyes, but I couldn't hear a word my mate was saying. Was this a shock? Tingles sprinted down my spine, and I felt myself begin to tremble. I couldn't hear anything. My eyesight blurred slightly. The chocolate ice cream that Bo and I had eaten was threatening to make an appearance. Muscular arms wrapped around me, and I whimpered, imagining that it was his arms, that he was coming to take me away. Amabel, baby, listen to me. Calm down, you're safe. I've got you. Bo's soothing voice calmed me. I wrapped my arms around his neck, burying my face in his chest. I could hear my mate's leaping heartbeat as he tried to soothe me. Xavier, what the heck is going on? Bo's voice was a growl when talking to anyone but me. How should I know? She's your mate. Don't test my patience. Bo's voice was hard. Man, I'm going to wait inside. Take care of her and you guys can come inside when she's all better. I heard a low sigh. I'm sorry, Zav. Thanks. Don't worry, she's your mate. I understand. A few minutes passed before I felt Bo start walking, heading into the forest. Twigs snapped and bushes rustled, informing me that he was moving. In about 10 minutes, Bo sat down, bringing me into his lap. I rested my head on his chest, keeping my arms tightly around him as he stroked my cheek and tucked a lock of hair behind my ear. The familiar pattern and calluses of his fingertips slowed my heartbeat, calming me. "What happened back there?" he murmured. I could detect the worry in his voice. "It's him, Bo. He's here," I breathed, cuddling closer to him. A low growl ripped from his chest, and I saw his jaw clench. My mate's muscles rippled, showing just how furious he was. Bo's arms tightened around my waist, and he held me closer to him, as if making sure I wasn't torn away from him. "I'm going to kill him." His voice was cold. I tilted my head up to look at him, stroking my thumb across his jaw. "There's no way I'm letting him get away, letting you live in fear of him. He needs to die." Bo's voice was firm and hard. "Don't you at least want to find out why he's here?" I muttered. He groaned and buried his head in the crook of my neck, taking a whiff of my scent to calm himself down. I felt his lips curve up against my skin. "What?" I wondered. "I can smell myself on you." Bo's voice was soft and filled with pride. My lips immediately curved up too. I loved it when Bo was gentle like this. It was like he was giving himself the part of him that was reserved for me, and only me. The fact that nobody else would see this soft side of Bo made my heart skip a beat and my lips stay curved. "Can I come with you?" I asked. "If he lays a finger on you, I swear." "Don't worry, Mr. Alpha. I think I can take care of myself." I grinned and kissed him on the cheek. Those eyes. Those bloodshot, raw red eyes that haunted my dreams. That sinister grin that jerked me awake, screaming. My breath caught as the nightmares flooded back. As memories from that night entered my mind, I knew that Bo was sifting through my thoughts, getting angrier and angrier as he saw my nightmares and my memories. I gulped, now looking into those eyes again. A Mabel Murdoch. His baritone voice sent shivers down my spine. Not good ones like Bo's voice did, but frightened, frozen ones. "Don't even say her name," Bo spat. "Why not? She'll be mine soon." I hated how calm he was, how those haunting eyes seemed so sure of themselves. At that, Bo growled and lunged for the Alpha. Instantly, 2 men came and held him back, grabbing his arms and keeping him away from the Alpha. 2 men weren't enough for Bo's strength. He brushed them off as if they were flies. Eventually, it took 8 werewolves to keep Bo away from the smug-looking Alpha. Bo closed his eyes and opened them a minute later. "Let go of me, I'm fine." His voice was hard, yet firm. The pack members let go, and Bo straightened himself out, strutting toward the spruce Alpha. His jaw was clenched, and I could see his muscles rippling. Werewolf claws were growing from his fingers, then retracting back into his nail as he stepped closer to the spruce Alpha. "What are you doing here?" His voice was quiet and cold, even more frightening than when he was shouting. "I've come for my mate." The spruce Alpha's eyes darted to me, raking over my body. And I'm glad that I have. Growls erupted from Bo and the pack members in the room, tensed, ready to hold back their Alpha as soon as he lunged. "She's mine, you fool! I made a deal with her father," the spruce Alpha hissed, breaking his mask of calm. "I've already claimed and marked her." The spruce Alpha lifted his nose, taking a whiff of the air, and his eyes narrowed as they landed on me. He could smell Bo's scent mixed with mine, and could probably smell me on Bo. I gasped when he tried to leap out of his chair and launch himself at my mate. Bo brought his fist back, and a loud smack sounded as his knuckles collided with the spruce Alpha's nose. I winced at the sound, and watched as the spruce Alpha recoiled, his nose clearly broken. "You're delusional, you know that?" Bo spat on the other Alpha. "You couldn't love someone. You don't love Belle, I do. You can't force her to do something she doesn't want." Bo's voice was barely audible as he murmured in the Alpha's ear. "Love or desire, young Alpha? There's a difference. Desire can be felt for someone you love. Which feeling overpowers?" "What do you think?" Bo asked dryly. "Desire." The spruce Alpha had a clenched jaw. "Well, you're wrong. Now tell me, what does Amabel feel for you? Desire or love? Which overpowers?" "Love," I murmured, knowing that they could hear me. "You're both foolish," he hissed. "Love doesn't exist. Once upon a time, I'd been positive of that. Now that I'd met Bo, I knew for sure that love existed. If Bo were to die, I'd die too. Maybe it wouldn't be willingly, but I'd eventually die from the emotional strain. If he stopped loving me, I'd die too. I'll never stop loving you," Bo spoke to me through the mate bond. A small smile slipped onto my face, making the spruce alpha snarl at Bo. I smirked at him, knowing that there was absolutely no way in hell I'd let him have me. I would honestly rather leave than let him claim me. Bo was the only one for me. "I'll kill him tomorrow morning," Bo told the pack members, who were currently guarding the concrete bunker. "Yes, sir." "Come on, you can't be serious," Bo groaned. "I'm making a point," I grinned. "This isn't necessary," he pouted. I shrugged and reached up to grab the bag of Doritos from a cabinet. Bo's eyes were on me, displaying an intense amount of desire, battling with control. His job was to stay seated on the couch while I went about my daily tasks in the kitchen. Did I mention I was wearing a tank top and my comfiest sleep shorts? Pretending Bo wasn't there, I went about my regular evening schedule. I lay on the island on my stomach, lazily kicking my legs back and forth, flipping through magazines and munching on Doritos. I could feel his eyes glued to me as I slid off the counter and reached up to put the chips away. Low growls were audible from where I was standing. I laughed silently to myself and moved on to eat one of the cupcakes that Bo and I had bought on our way home. It was chocolate, my favorite. I leaned against the counter, facing Bo, and proceeded to eat the cupcake. I knew that frosting was smeared on my lips, and also that Bo's grip was molding into the armrest. As I ran my tongue along my upper lip, Bo was out of his seat. A black blur had me pinned to the wall, and I smirked up at him. He leaned his head down and slowly brushed his lips against mine, getting the chocolate frosting. "That's the best frosting I've ever had," he whispered huskily. "You lasted for 3 minutes and 21 seconds, I murmured teasingly. "I never said how much of me was driven by desire for you, just that the love was greater," he defended, his hands wrapped firmly around my waist. "By the way, you made me drop my cupcake," I said accusingly. Suddenly, Bo's eyes lit up, filled with a wicked spark. I raised one eyebrow questioningly. "Your turn," he murmured with a deep voice. "Fine," I agreed, lifting my chin. I lowered myself onto the couch and watched as Bo smirked at me. "I'll be right back," he said, taking the steps 2 at a time. A few minutes later, Bo came into view again, and I crossed my arms across my chest, biting down on my bottom lip to keep them from parting. His bronze skin was covered with beads of water, and he had only a pair of dark Levi's on, hanging low on his hips. I did my very best to keep my eyes off his defined 8-pack. A small gasp left my lips as Bo picked me up and pinned me to the wall. Those stormy gray eyes were twinkling, and a wicked grin was spread across his handsome face, making my breath catch. "This is against the rules," I murmured. "You said that the rules were just that you had to keep from giving in to the other. If you don't give in to me, you'll win," his eyes challenged me. "But—" "No buts, you already agreed. Now get ready to lose." I was about to protest, but a thumb was brushed across my lips, slowly making its way to my jaw, trailing up to cut my face. I bit down on my lower lip, not wanting to part my mouth. I was pushed harder against the wall. My mate's hands flanked my head as he leaned against the wall, brushing those soft lips against my throat. "This isn't fair," I breathed, clenching my hands into fists to keep them from wrapping around Bo's neck, tangling in his hair, and pulling his head down to meet my lips. "Wearing sleep shorts isn't fair. How long has it been?" 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Just 10 more seconds. I could handle that, or so I thought. Bo twined his fingers with mine, then ran my knuckles along his 8-pack, then over his hip bones. Then his fingers roamed my arms, gliding over my skin. Once his hands trailed up my shoulders and he kissed up my neck. I couldn't take it anymore. "I hate you so much," I muttered, reaching up, tangling my fingers in his hair, then pulling his head down to mine. Chapter 13. Bo rested his head in the crook of my neck, taking a long whiff of my scent. I kept my eyes closed and ran my fingers through his silky locks, letting the tips massage his scalp, something that had his wolf purring. My fingers ceased their movement for a few seconds as I thought of today's events. The fact that my nightmare was to be taken by the love of my life tomorrow was a definite comfort. I would no longer have to worry about him finding me. "Don't stop," he groaned. That felt good. I laughed silently and continued my slow circles, only half aware of the movement. Bo's lips curved up against my throat, and he gently kissed the tender skin near my collarbone. His arms wrapped more tightly around my waist, and his thumbs rubbed my hips. I rolled my eyes at the wrinkled pile of clothes, then at the wrinkled pile of jeans. We were certainly guilty of getting lost in the moment, on more than one occasion. "I have a few wolves watching over your family. You never know what could happen," Bo murmured. "What do you mean?" My eyes fluttered open. "He's an alpha, baby." I knew who he was talking about. He has hundreds of wolves standing loyally behind him, and they'll be ready to strike by morning. Do you really think they'd let me kill their alpha without fighting first? Oh, I frowned slightly. Bo must have detected the worry in my voice because he propped himself up on his elbows and looked down at me. Baby, don't worry. My pack outnumbers them by thousands. I won't let anything happen to you or your family. I don't want anybody to die because of me, I whispered, refusing to meet his stormy gray eyes. Hey, he said gently, tilting my head up to look at him with his finger. They'd die for you in an instant. Don't feel bad about it. You're their Luna, they'd do anything to ensure your safety. I wish they wouldn't. My voice came out slightly choked. Don't feel bad. They love you almost as much as I do. He leaned down and pressed his lips to mine. I let myself mold against him, loving the feel of him against me. Bo parted his lips, opening my mouth underneath his. I was about to deepen the kiss when the taste of bile emerged. I quickly pushed Bo off of me and sprinted to the bathroom. I barely made it to the toilet before I got sick, making me wince. Baby, what's wrong? Did I hurt you? His voice was full of concern and worry. I took deep breaths, leaning over the toilet as Bo dashed into the bathroom, his eyes wide as he saw me leaning over the toilet. He instantly came and pulled the hair out of my face, holding it back as I got sick some more. He murmured calming words in my ear and gently stroked my back. After a few minutes, I stood up, flushed the toilet, and washed my face at the sink. Bo was looking at me with concern in his eyes. He came and wrapped his arms around me as I buried my face in his muscular chest, breathing in the familiar spicy scent that was my mate. What's wrong, baby? Are you sick? Did you eat something? He cupped my face in his hands and locked my eyes with his. I don't know. My voice cracked slightly. Come on. He took my hand in his. Let's go to bed. As we walked out of the bathroom, hand in hand, I caught a side view of myself and almost gasped. My eyes widened, and I froze, not believing what I saw. Where my stomach used to be flat and toned, there was now a slight bulge, one that hadn't been there last night. I gulped and turned in front of the mirror, looking at my body from all angles. The bulge was most definitely there. I hurriedly ran out of the bathroom, nervous jitters erupting within. I stepped into the walk-in closet and looked at my calendar. My period was due 2 weeks ago. My heart pounded and butterflies bubbled in my stomach. My hands were shaking slightly as I stared at my calendar, my hands over my mouth in shock. In my entire life, I'd never missed a period. I'd always gotten it on the exact day it was due. This was 2 weeks late, an impossibility in my body. Baby, what's going on? Bo looked confused and wary. As if I hadn't heard him, I stared at my reflection in the floor-length mirror, facing the wall and turning my head to see the mirror. The bulge was small, but it was there. The thought of something growing within me, something that was part of Bo, made a single tear trickle down my cheek. Belle? Bo's worry was painfully obvious, and I felt slightly guilty. Baby, do you want me to take you to the doctor? What's wrong? I placed my hand on my stomach, somewhat in a daze. A little nudge brought me back to reality, and I gasped, my eyes widening in shock, as I looked down at my hand, which was resting on the bulge. That small kick had filled me with a protective instinct over the child. As I was fully immersed in the bulge, Bo connected the dots. He studied me with a wary look in his eye, and when his lips parted, I knew that he'd noticed the bulge. I saw him gulp, then walk over to my calendar and flip through the months, figuring out when my period was, before flipping back to this month. His eyes widened, and his face paled when he made the realization. I have to contact the pack doctor, he muttered to himself, running his fingers through his hair, not once taking his eyes off the bulge of my stomach. He can take care of it before you get hurt. My eyes widened, and I felt my heart clench. He wanted to get rid of the baby. I knew for a fact that werewolf births were incredibly painful, and that if the mother was giving birth to multiple cubs at once, she could die. Yet I didn't care. I needed the little bulge to live. I wouldn't let myself die. I was stronger than that. Anyway, I most likely didn't have more than one cub growing within me. Bo, we can't. I choked out. Baby, what if it hurts you? We're only 18. Your brother would have my head. I couldn't handle watching it hurt you. We can't. I gazed at the bulge in wonderment. Can't what? Get rid of it, I whispered. Baby! I knew he was trying to keep from freaking out. I didn't care. He needed to realize that I wouldn't let anything happen to my little bulge. I took his hand and placed it on the bulge, urging it to kick again. I felt a sense of warmth and pride course through me when I felt the nudge. Bo's features instantly softened, and he drew in a deep breath. We can't get rid of it, baby. My voice was barely audible. You don't deserve this. I should have been more careful. Stop it! I put my hand over his mouth. We both know that I would have gotten pregnant sooner or later. Honestly, I'm happy. Can't you just be happy for us? I promise I'm okay, just stop worrying. He closed his eyes slowly and kept them shut for a while before opening them. Bo rested his forehead against mine and brushed his thumb across my cheekbone, keeping his eyes locked with mine. Are you sure you want this? His voice was lower than a whisper. More than anything. Then so do I. He gently pressed his lips to mine. I want him to look just like you, I murmured, smiling up at my mate. How do you know it's a him? I can tell. I looked down at my little bulge. Bo and I were cuddled up on the couch, just relaxing. I was wearing one of his t-shirts, and he had thrown on a pair of dark Levi's. His warm hand was stroking my stomach with small, gentle movements, and he looked lost in thought. When do you think I got pregnant? I wondered. He chuckled softly. I have no idea. It's not like we keep to our side of the bed at night. The corners of my mouth tugged up. Maybe we should start doing that. I felt him tense underneath me. What? Why? We wouldn't want to hurt it. He groaned. Let's change the subject, you're going to make me depressed. I grinned and twisted around to face him, my legs were wrapped around his waist. I want him to have your eyes. I tangled my fingers in his hair. Your lips. I brushed my thumb across his bottom lip. I want him to be just like you. I earned a smile. I want him to have your smile, your laugh, your hair. He tucked a lock of my wavy hair behind my ear. Your nose. My nose? He kissed the tip of my nose. Your nose. What would we name him? I traced my fingers across Bo's 8-pack. He groaned. You know how much I love that. Oops. I trailed my hands up his chest and wrapped them around his neck, ignoring the groans I received. What about the name? I don't know. He was quiet for a second. Damn it. What? I tilted my head up to look at him. We're going to have to tell your brother. Everett won't be mad, I reassured him. You're right, he'll be pissed. Don't worry about Rhett, he's the last thing you should be worrying about. He sighed and pressed his lips to my temple. Let's go to bed. Okay. Bo and I lay spooned together. We hadn't slept like this for a while. We were almost always tangled up with each other. I could tell that my mate was struggling for control, but I knew that he'd be able to do it. He was strong. This is going to take some getting used to, he muttered. I love you. I snuggled closer to him. I love you too. I felt as his lips pressed against the back of my neck and his arms tightened around me. Chapter 14. I wore a navy blue knit sweater with extra long sleeves that concealed the skin up to my knuckles. The sweater was paired with faded skinny jeans and leather knee-high boots. It was a little bit loose, helping to sort of hide my bulge. Bo and I had decided to wait until the pack was settled, meaning the Spruce Alpha's death, before announcing my pregnancy. A smile crept onto my face as I came down the stairs. My mate was standing at the stove in a t-shirt and jeans, his hair still mussed, and was flipping pancakes. I took 2 plates from a cabinet and put them to the right of the stove. Bo grinned down at me when I gave him a peck on the cheek. His stormy eyes held a thoughtful expression, and I was curious as to what he could possibly be thinking about. A possibility could be the death he'd be responsible for within an hour. However, I highly doubted it. He was more than pleased to squeeze the life out of the Spruce Alpha. My second theory was our baby. I knew that Bo didn't know if he was ready to be a father, that much was obvious. He was trying his very best to hide it, but I could read him easily. One part of him was excited and anxious about my pregnancy and our decision to keep the baby, yet the other was frightened slightly by the commitment involved. Hey baby, he kissed my lips while flipping a golden pancake. How's your stomach? Bigger, I sighed. I'm not sure how long we'll be able to hide it. Werewolves mature much faster than humans in the womb. It takes around 1 week for the wolf pups to grow in their mother's womb, occasionally less if the mother is having multiple pups. Twins take 5 days, triplets take 3 days is the minimum amount of time in the mother's womb. Bo and I knew that our baby would mature quickly. It was the offspring of a Luna and Alpha, therefore making it stronger and faster. It would take around half a week until I was due. Bo slid 2 pancakes onto the plates and gestured for me to sit down at the table. I watched as he grinned at me and squirted whipped cream on top of each patty, plopping a strawberry at the top. I chuckled, he had such a sweet tooth. My vision was blocked as he shifted his weight and did something else to the pancakes. He probably just drizzled chocolate or something. I ran my fingers through my hair and stifled a small yawn. I'd had to sleep on my side last night, something I wasn't used to. The plate was placed in front of me, and I smirked at my mate. There was a pile of whipped cream on the pancake. He shot me an innocent grin and started eating his breakfast. I rolled my eyes affectionately and cut off a small piece of the pancake. We ate in a comfortable silence, both caught up in our own thoughts. Mine was on the pup growing in my belly. I swiped my finger through the whipped cream, savoring the rich flavor. I suppose I was a sucker for sweets, too. My finger ran along something hard, and I frowned. I dug around in the fluffy blob for a few seconds, trying to hunt down the hard object. My fingers closed around it, and I brought it out of the mess, wiping it off with my napkin. My eyes widened when I saw what it was. It was a silver band, decorated beautifully with a sparkling diamond. The diamond wasn't big, nor was it flashy. It was exactly the type of ring I'd choose for myself. My heart started pounding, and my breath caught. I was barely aware that my jaw had dropped. Bo took the ring from my grasp and knelt down on one knee, right in front of me. I could feel tears pooling in my eyes, and I cursed myself. Why the hell was I crying at a time like this? A small part of my brain answered me, because this is all you've ever wanted. I know we've only known each other for a couple of months, but I also know that those months have been the best of my life. If you say no, I'll understand. I love you more than anything, and I'm willing to wait. His eyes glanced up nervously, and only then did I realize that a small part of him was scared. Amabel Murdoch, will you marry me? I choked on my tears and cupped his face in my hands, pressing my lips against his. The familiarity and warmth of Bo's mouth on mine kept me rooted to earth, informed me that this wasn't a dream. The love of my life was actually asking me to marry him. His lips moved against mine, and I kissed him back eagerly. After what seemed like eternity, I pulled back to fill my lungs with air. Bo's eyes twinkled with amusement. You haven't answered the question, but I'm guessing that's a yes, he breathed, the corners of his mouth quirking up. Yes, I couldn't help the huge smile that stretched across my face. The happiness and relief that flooded his features were adorable. But I knew better than to tell him that it would question his manliness and I'd pay for it later. I attempted to stop smiling, but found that I couldn't. This was the happiest I'd ever been. Bo took my left hand and slid the sparkling band on my ring finger. It was warm and fit perfectly, feeling as if it were meant to be there and had been there for all eternity. Electricity was shooting up my veins from the place where the ring rested. It was the good kind of electricity that Bo seemed to create, leaving me breathless. I love you so much, I murmured, looking up from my ring. His face was answer enough. It displayed his love for me in the purest way possible. His usually calm and composed features seemed to float away as he opened up, showing me the beaming boy within. My heart was bursting with happiness, and I fought the urge to pinch myself, to make sure that this was real. He stood up and wrapped his arms around my waist, holding me against him. Our chests were separated by a margin of air, due to the larger bulge, but we remained as close as possible. We leaned in toward the other, awaiting the feel of the comforting set of lips, but just as I sensed the tingles that said he was close, the baby kicked and we both jerked, surprised. Bo burst out laughing, and I beamed down at my stomach, wondering if the pup wanted to join the moment. A small twinkle of laughter left my lips before Bo just decided to crash his lips down upon mine. Hey, Jav. Bo closed my car door behind me and took my hand as we walked up to the bunker. Bo and Belle! The Auburn boy waved and jogged down to us, a slight curve at his mouth. His eyes immediately zoomed in on the ring on my left finger, and the slight curve grew to a full-on beam. Congrats, guys. He wrapped his arms around the two of us, and I felt Bo stiffen at Xavier's contact with me, but quickly relaxed when I scolded him with the mate bond. Thanks, man. My mate grinned at his beta. So, Belle, when did the big bad alpha propose? Bo rolled his eyes and hung his arm over my hips. This morning. He even made breakfast. I smirked at my mate, who was avoiding eye contact with Xavier. Xavier feigned shock. So what you're saying is that our alpha has a soft side? He pretended to be hurt. Bo, I bet you never get all creepy Darth Vader on Belle, yet you do around me. Now that is hurtful. Do you think it'll be as sore as your face in a few seconds? Bo masked his face with innocence. Do you want to test it? My theory is that your face will be in more pain. I swatted Bo's shoulder, and he shot me a playful grin. Xavier teched and took a step back. I raised my eyebrow at the beta. Don't give me that look, Belle. Your fiancé is dangerous. He may be joking and he may not be joking. You never know with Mr. Alpha. I could hear the lightheartedness in his tone. Suddenly, we heard a commotion inside the bunker. The three of us spun around in time to see the door slam open and a pack of wolves run out toward us, screaming bloody murder. Jared, what the hell is going on? Bo demanded, the playfulness no longer in his voice. Sir, the prisoner. He broke through the bonds and killed Curtis. Son of a bitch, Bo muttered, letting go of my hand and sprinting up toward the bunker. Baby, stay there. Don't follow me. Jared, make sure she stays put and is safe. But, I started, but my mate was already in the bunker, as was Xavier. I turned to Jared to argue, and he ducked his head down, showing his respect for his Luna. Please, can I go help them? You could keep me safe, I pleaded. I'm sorry, Amabel. I truly am. But your mate gave me orders, and it's physically impossible for me to break them. His eyes begged me to understand. I sighed and chewed my bottom lip, hoping to God that Bo would be okay. I didn't bother hoping he was safe, because I knew he wasn't. The Spruce Alpha had murdered my entire pack. He didn't mess around or play games. He was ruthless, cold-blooded, and completely driven by self-interest. I heard a loud thud from the bunker, and my hands flew to my stomach, pure instinct. Jared stiffened and sniffed the air, using his wolf senses. What he smelled didn't please him. Amabel, we're going to have to run. He pushed me toward the trees. Jared, what's going on? I demanded, sprinting in the direction he pushed me in. He ran after me, looking over his shoulder. I smelled pack blood. It's fresh. My blood ran cold, and I hoped with every single ounce of my being that it wasn't Bo. Then I remembered that Xavier was with him in there. If either one of them got hurt, do you think they're okay? I asked, panting slightly. They can take care of themselves and each other. They're the strongest fighters in the pack. I stumbled over a fallen log, and Jared helped me up, urging me to go faster. His encouraging words made me feel like a 5-year-old, but I ignored them, knowing that he was only trying to help. Just as I reached the line of thick bushes and trees, a snarling figure leapt on me, and I immediately recognized the smell. How did he get out of the bunker? I froze, and my eyes widened. The Spruce Alpha watched me with amusement, then turned and snapped Jared's neck. I gasped and held back tears that had not yet been shed. Get up, he pulled me up roughly. You're going to regret this, I said coldly. My dear, he traced his finger down my spine, whispering in my ear. You're going to regret ever running away from me. Then he injected something into me. At that moment, my vision blurred and my ears pounded. Everything became pitch black. Chapter 15. I woke up with a start, gasping for air. Once my lungs were full, I looked around and whimpered at my surroundings. I was lying on a cold, hard floor, one that was slightly damp, only chilling me further. Luckily, my sweater and jeans kept the pup and me warm, but my icy body temperature canceled out any difference it made. I cupped my shivering hands in front of my mouth and blew out warm air, attempting to circulate some warmth. I didn't want the pup to get sick. There was a small pile of hay in the corner, but droplets of water were scattered over it. Thick, silver bars made up the wall in front of me, and impenetrable stone made up the other 3 walls of my cell. There was a small wooden plate near where the bars and wall connected, and it had a stale piece of bread. My stomach was begging me to eat it, but I promised myself that I wouldn't eat anything they gave me. I stifled the tears of terror as I remembered that night. He'd murdered my parents just the way he'd harmed me once he was through. I remembered what I'd sworn to Bo. I would die before mating with another male. I fully intended to keep my promise and knew that I would. Bo, I missed him so much already. I longed to have his warm arms wrapped around me right now, comforting me and saying that everything was all right, that the baby and I would be safe, and rescue was on the way at this very moment. To have his low voice murmur soothing words in my ears and calm my rapid heartbeat. I wanted so badly to feel his lips against mine before the Spruce Alpha did anything. Bo? I desperately attempted to contact him with our bond. Bo, please? Are you there? I'm scared. A choked sob left me when I didn't get a response. Xav? Anyone? I tried the pack link. Nothing. I leaned against the cold wall and pulled my knees up to my chest, wrapping my arms around them. I could at least try to keep the baby warm. This was like a small piece of Bo, and anything of Bo was good enough for me. Bo's point of view. Where are Jared and Belle? I wondered, looking around my living room at my somber pack. Dude, you might want to sit down, Xavier suggested. I narrowed my eyes at my best friend. Why? He gave a slight nod of his head, and the strongest 8-pack wolves came with silver chains. My eyes widened, and I glowered at Xavier. What the hell are you doing? Watch it. He had dark circles under his eyes. I'm doing this because you won't be able to control your wolf or your alpha side when you hear what I'm about to tell you. I don't need to be bound with silver chains, Xav. Yeah, he sighed. You do. I was pushed into a chair, and silver chains were bound around me. My pack put thin layers of cloth between my skin and the silver so it wouldn't burn me, but if I struggled, the chains would break through the fabric and singe my skin. Once they were satisfied that I was bound tight enough, I turned to my beta. "Where is my mate, Xavier?" As I looked around the room, some eyes were filled with fury. Others were drowning in tears and sadness. All displayed pity. "Bo." Xavier looked up at me with pained eyes. "The spruce alpha took her." "What did you say?" I asked through clenched teeth. "She was kidnapped and Jared was killed. She's been trying to contact us with the pack link, but for some reason, it keeps getting thrown off. It's like there's 2 of them there." My muscles rippled, and I struggled in the chains, clawing at them. I needed to get to Amabel. The silver burned my skin, but I didn't care. I barely noticed. Amabel was in danger, and who knew what the spruce alpha would do to her? If he claimed her. "Xavier, get these chains off of me. We can't just stay here." I shouted anything to try and get these chains off. "You know this is hard for me too. Belle's one of my best friends. She's my mate. What would you do if you lost yours?" I heard whimpers throughout the room and the sounds of mates cuddling closer. Xavier's face was hard, and he gulped. "You know I haven't found her. Try contact Belle, or something." "Man, I told you there's something messing with our link. It's like there's 2 Amabels." My eyes widened, and I stared at Xavier. I know why. The eyes of all the pack members looked at me curiously, pushing me to explain. "She's pregnant. There is another wolf close enough to her to interfere with the link. It's in her stomach." Upon hearing that their Luna was carrying their alpha's baby, their future alpha, the pack members straightened, and growls were heard throughout the room. They wouldn't let anything happen to their beloved Luna or their future alpha. "Bo, can you control yourself?" Xavier wondered cautiously. "Hell no, but I'm about to break through these chains anyway." At that moment, the chains snapped, and I smirked at the bewildered gazes of awe from my pack members. I could break through silver chains. "Half of you run if you pick up anything. Take 5 more wolves with you to investigate. The other half of you stay here for when it's your turn to run." I grabbed a shirt of Amabel's from underneath the table, don't ask how it got there, and tossed it at the half that was going. "Here's her scent." They took long whiffs of the scent and were out the door, shifting and howling like a bunch of hound dogs. I felt pride at my pack's loyalty to their Luna and future alpha, and turned, bounding after them. There was no way in hell I would sit around my house and do nothing. Amabel meant everything to me, and if she wasn't in my arms within 48 hours, someone was going to get hurt very badly. Daphne's point of view. "Hey, Bo, I painted my last toenail." "What's up?" "Daphne, you and Everett need to get over here." His voice was hard and scary. "Why? What's wrong? Is Amabel okay?" I demanded, walking on my heels so I wouldn't chip my nails. "The spruce alpha took her." His voice was pained. "No," I breathed, my blood running cold. "Bo Chandler, tell me you're lying." All I heard was silence and ragged breathing. This was just as hard for him. I said okay, and we both hung up. "Everett Murdoch, get your lazy ass out of bed. We're going to Bo's house," I shouted. "What did he do to her?" Rhett came dashing into my room, looking lethal. "The spruce alpha took her." He jumped out of my window and started sprinting to Bo's house. "Hey, wait up!" I did the same, calling upon my wolf speed. I burst through Bo's front door, Rhett on my heels. All eyes turned to me, including Bo's. And his betas. Those blue eyes were beautiful. Wait, what? My eyes remained locked with his auburn betas, and my heart thudded. Could this really be happening? I could barely hear the sounds of Everett and Bo talking, occasionally yelling, and coming up with a plan. That breathtaking boy had my undivided attention. He sauntered down the stairs, looking cool and composed, keeping his eyes locked with mine, and walked over to Bo. "I'll debrief the sister," he offered. That voice alone drew me in. "Thanks, Zav." Not knowing what to do, I followed the beautiful boy through a doorway and into a kitchen. "Daphne, get your head out of the clouds and drop down from cloud 9. You need to know as much as possible about the kidnapping." Then he spun around, grabbing my waist and pulling me against his muscled body. My lips were met with soft, yet demanding ones. "Maybe he can debrief you later." My arms snaked up his defined chest and wrapped around his neck, pulling him closer. I got a whiff of his scent, chocolate and grass. I know that it probably doesn't sound like the most intriguing of scents, but it made my mouth water. I parted my lips to take a breath of air as the kiss deepened. I rubbed my hand along the stubble at his jaw and gasped when his hands gripped my waist. I was lifted effortlessly onto a cool, granite counter. He stood close, and I couldn't seem to tear my eyes away from his. The counter added to my height, so we were eye to eye. "What's your name?" he murmured against my neck, making me tingle pleasantly. "Daphne," I breathed. "What's yours?" "Xavier." Then our lips were locked again. Amabel's point of view. Fear was something that I'd felt most this past year. Love for Beau eventually overpowered that, taking its spot as my most felt emotion, but fear always lingered. It started as fear that the spruce alpha would jump out of my closet and hurt me or something. Then, when I met Beau, it became a fear that he would reject me or discover my past and then reject me as well. As I said, that fear fueled my love for him. This fear was by far the worst, because it was all the fear I'd experienced combined, and I had so much more to lose if something happened. Daph, Rhett, Grandma, Grandpa, Beau, and Jav. The baby that Beau and I had created was sitting patiently in my stomach, growing more and more each second. It was now the size of a cantaloupe. "Belle?" came a small voice. My eyes darted up and landed on a petite blonde figure lying in the haystack. How had I not noticed her in the past 2 days? She blended in with the hay. I got a closer look at her and let out a sob, throwing my arms around her. "Oh my God, Kat!" I wept, tears of joy or just emotions begging to emerge. I didn't know. "What are you doing here?" Katerina Kat was my best friend. She was 2 years younger than me, 16 now, but she was mature for her age and always provided me with support or a shoulder to lean on. She had golden blonde hair, tawny doe eyes, and full lips. She hugged me tightly and pulled me down to sit next to her on the hay. "The alpha of this pack took me that night that our pack was," she gulped, "killed." "That's a year," I breathed. "It seems longer." She kept her arms wrapped around me, and I did the same. She looked up at me in surprise when she felt my bulging stomach and the small nudge. "You found your mate?" Her hazel eyes looked curiously down at the bulge as I responded, "He's the alpha of the Thunder Pack." Then her eyes widened. "Oh my God, seriously?" I nodded. "Aren't you, intimidated by him?" I chuckled. "No, he's adorable. Don't tell him I said that, though." She let out a twinkle of laughter and placed her hand on my stomach. "When's it due?" "I have no idea," I sighed. "Soon, though." "Do you know how many? Or if it's a girl or boy?" "Nope. I think it's a boy, though. Something inside is telling me that." I frowned. "Sorry, that sounded really stupid." "No, that's so cool," she breathed. It felt good. Like nothing had changed in the past year, and we weren't sitting in a cell awaiting our future. It was like we were 2 teenage girls gossiping about boys. Kat helped to dull the fear and longing for my mate. The rumors were true. Being separated from your mate was terrible and caused emotional and physical pain. Chapter 16. Daphne's point of view. I've never loved someone who wasn't related to me by blood. In fact, for a little while, I didn't know if it was possible for me to love someone. I'd had to take care of Rhett and Belle. They were my main priority. A part of me has always longed to find that one person with whom I could love and be loved in return. Lying here in Xavier's arms seemed to be the definition of love. I know it was foolish to conclude so quickly, especially when we'd met less than an hour ago, but I knew that the warm, bubbly feeling in my chest was love. Of course, I'd read about the emotion. I'd even seen it. It was obvious that Belle and Beau were in love. You could see it in their eyes. The way they'd look at each other as if that was all they saw. How they'd hold hands to maintain contact and know that their partner was still there. I'd envied them. Surprisingly, love was all I saw when I looked into Zav's ultramarine eyes. The fact that we were separated by an age divide of 6 years didn't matter to me in the slightest, especially since he was so big and muscular he could pull off 24 any day. I wrapped my arms more tightly around his waist and buried my head in the crook of his arm, feeling his warm, calloused hand brush gently up and down my spine. Things had moved quickly between us. Our little makeout session in the kitchen had somehow landed us in the forest, wrapped in each other's arms. I knew it was wrong to be so happy when Belle was still missing, but Zav seemed to melt all my troubles away. When Belle and Beau would comfort each other so easily, I'd found it slightly ridiculous and impossible. Nobody could make someone else so happy and bubbly simply by looking at them, smiling at them, or taking their hand. My hard mother nature proved me wrong. Rhett and I were a part of Beau and Belle's pack now. Beau had initiated Rhett, and I was part of the pack because Zav had claimed me. This is why both of us received the message through the link. "We've got a lock on Belle's location," came an excited voice. "Everybody meet back at my house." Beau's voice was eager, yet held a hint of worry. Zav groaned and pulled me closer to him, planting kisses up my shoulders. I shuddered and felt my eyes close involuntarily. He does that to me. I can't control my emotions around him, and it frightens me slightly. He's so perfect that sometimes I feel as if I'm not good enough for him. Do we really have to go? He murmured huskily. I think Bo will be pretty upset if we don't. I can take him in a fight, he insisted. We don't want that handsome face of yours to get bloody and disfigured. Hey, he would be the one with the bloody face. Sure he would, babe. Are you questioning my strength? He raised an eyebrow and leaned over me. No, I think you're perfect. I wrapped my arms around his neck and pulled his lips down to meet mine. Xav and Daph, you have 2 minutes to get some clothes on and get your hormone-crazed selves over here, Bo ordered. Forget him, Xav muttered. Really? His eyes flashed, and he crashed his lips down onto mine, telling me that I was his. It is evident that his wolf is in control right now and is upset, even picturing me with Bo. I pulled back to fill my lungs with air as he continued trailing kisses down my neck. I was kidding. I'm sure Belle has him wrapped around her little finger. Xav chuckled. She does, and he's wrapped around hers. Don't you dare say that, I threatened. She's my little sister, and I'd like to believe she's still innocent. Belle's pregnant. What? I jerked up and stared at him, disbelieving. Xav, if you're lying to me, ask Bo. He shrugged and stretched. Oh my God, I breathed. I know. He tossed me my clothes. She and Bo have been busy. I snorted. Wait until Rhett finds out. Bo's point of view. Daph and Xav came jogging into the house, their hands clasped. I smirked, knowing exactly what they'd been doing. I'd made the connection once I walked into the kitchen to find their make-out session. And then I felt a new member being added to our pack half an hour ago. The Spruce Alpha has her in a temporary camp smack dab in the middle of the woods. My heart ached for my mate. She and the baby were being held prisoner in the middle of the woods, in my territory. Yet it felt as if there was nothing I could do. Now that we've found her, there was no way I was letting her go again. I knew that this was my fault. Maybe if I hadn't left her alone, she'd still be with me. We'd be lying in bed discussing baby names and talking about house renovations for our soon-to-be family. I'd listen to Belle fantasize about our wedding and play out to me all her thoughts and ideas down to the very last detail, and I wouldn't mind listening to her melodic voice. Let's go then. I was the first out the door. Surround the camp and attack on my signal. Amabelle's point of view. Kat and I gripped each other's hands tightly as the footsteps grew closer. I had one hand held securely in Kat's, and the other was on my stomach, praying that the pup would be okay. In the past few hours, it had grown impossibly and was now the size of an immense basketball. Reunions are always so sweet, came the cold and dreaded voice. He smirked at me, but the smirk became a look of utter fury when his gaze dropped down to my stomach. My heart clenched in fear, and I felt the pup nudge me. I couldn't let it die. The Spruce Alpha opened the cell and marched in, grabbed me painfully by my upper arm. Whereas Bo's touch left my arm feeling warm and tingly, his enveloped it in ice. Kat jumped up to try and help me, but he sent her down to the floor with a slap that echoed throughout the cell. I called out to her, feeling tears run down my cheeks, and she slowly sat up, her eyes asking me if she wanted me to help. I shook my head, not wanting her to be hurt because of me. Then we heard the commotion outside. The Spruce Alpha sniffed the air and growled when he recognized the scent. You're coming with me. He pulled me down a hall, and I gasped when I realized that the cell was built inside a tent. We emerged, and I was blinded for a few seconds by the sunlight that I'd missed in the past 2 days. I looked around to see wolves leaping at each other, snarling, fighting. Then I realized this was my pack. Bo was here. Bo, Belle's over here. The monster's got her. I was being dragged into the woods at a furious pace. I could hear the footsteps behind us, and I hoped that they were friendly ones. I slammed against a log and hit my head on it. Blood dripped down my face, and I let out a small whimper. A low growl was heard behind me, followed by a howl. I recognized that growl. He was here. I tried to get up to my feet, but a slap cracked across my face, leaving a stinging sensation on my cheek. I gasped and panted, tasting the coppery blood in my mouth. Get up, you fool, came his voice as he pulled me up. As soon as I was on my feet, we were running again. Well, he was running, I was being dragged along. Scratches and cuts lined my skin, and my nails were caked with dirt. My head throbbed and my whole body ached. I used all my energy making sure that I kept my stomach safe. My hands were wrapped around it, protecting it from rocks or unfortunate landings. Let her go, came a hard, cold voice. I looked up to see my dark god. He was glowering dangerously at the Spruce Alpha, standing in the middle of the clearing we were in. He must have cornered the Alpha. I couldn't help the ragged breath of relief upon the sight of him. He was so beautiful, like an avenging angel. But he wasn't an angel, he was a god. My dark god. I'd die before giving her to the likes of you, the spruce alpha sneered, throwing me against a tree. I cried out in pain and quickly bit down on my tongue, not wanting to distract Beau. His eyes lingered on me for a second, soft and full of worry, but quickly hardened and turned back to the spruce alpha when he saw my injured figure. That can be arranged, he responded. He leapt and shifted in mid-jump, landing on the surprised spruce alpha. Within seconds, the two large wolves were fighting furiously in front of me. One was a gray color, and the other was my ebony-furred mate. Growls and snarls ripped through the air, and I yelped, slapping my hand over my mouth when Beau was thrown across the clearing. As if nothing had happened, he growled and launched himself back at the smug-looking alpha. A loud crack echoed through the air, and I hoped with my whole being that the sound didn't come from my dark god. The gray wolf rolled over, and for a split second, a feeling of dread coursed through me. Then I realized that it was Beau pushing the defeated alpha off of him. I let out a choked sob and crawled over to my mate, pulling his head into my lap and stroking his muddy forehead. "You came!" I choked, sobs racking my body. "You saved me." He shifted back into his human form and sat up, pulling me into his lap. I felt his comforting arms wrap around my waist and knew that this was what I'd been longing for the past couple of days. I longed to be in Beau's arms again. "Of course I came back for you. You mean everything to me," he murmured, kissing my cheek tenderly. "I love you so much," I sobbed, throwing my arms around his neck. He chuckled and held me closer. "Why are you crying?" "I have no idea," I bawled, wiping my cheeks furiously. "I think the pregnancy's messing with your emotions." I could hear the smirk in his voice. "Oh my God, there's something wrong with me." I slapped a hand over my mouth and looked at him wide-eyed. "What if there's something wrong with the baby now? Or what if—" My rant was silenced by soft lips being placed against mine. I melted into my mate, savoring the feeling of pure bliss he put me in. I could smell his familiar spicy scent and basked in it. I didn't want to ever let go of Beau. I pulled back, panting. We should probably go back. I tried to stand up and failed miserably. Pain flashed across Beau's face as he picked me up and carried me back to the camp bridal style. My arms wrapped around his neck, and I buried my face into his chest. It felt so good to be back with him. Zav handed Beau a pair of jeans when we arrived at the edge of the forest, and he beamed at me. I engulfed him in a hug, ignoring the small growls coming from Beau. "I'm so glad you're okay, Belle," he grinned down at me. The three of us walked back out to the pack, and I saw Kat limping out of the tent. 2 pack members were assisting her. I let out a dry sob and beamed at her. She smiled back and limped over to me, wrapping her arms around me. We hugged for a few seconds before pulling back and grinning. "Beau, this is my best friend, Kat," I introduced. "Kat, this is my mate, Beau." "Hi," Kat said shyly, not used to being in the presence of the most powerful alpha in North America. Suddenly, I gasped, and a small whimper left my lips. Beau's head jerked over to me, and his eyes were wide. I felt him pull me into his arms as I felt something in my stomach shift. Beads of sweat dripped down my face, and I panted. "What's happening to her?" Beau demanded. I think she's going into labor," Kat breathed. "She's having a contraction." "Exav, tell the pack doctor to get to my house in 1 minute. Any later and he's dead." I was lifted into the air and felt the ground move furiously beneath me. Beau was running. Beau's point of view. I bounded up the front steps of my house and dashed up the stairs, pleased to see that the pack doctor was already setting up his equipment in my bedroom. I gently placed Amabel down on the bed, then sat next to her, letting her grip my hand. She was grasping me so tightly that I was sure my circulation was being cut off. She let out a half scream, half pant, and gripped my hand even tighter. Sweat was dripping down her beautiful face, and I helped her get changed into one of my t-shirts, shielding her from view. The doctor was happily married with 5 kids, but I wasn't taking any chances. "Amabel, when I tell you, push, all right?" His voice was soothing. My mate nodded and locked her frightened, chocolate-brown eyes with mine. I held her hand firmly and told her to squeeze my hand as hard as she wanted. "Now," the doctor said. "Triplets. 2 boys and 1 girl. Triplets." My mate gave birth to triplets, and survived. I was still trying to wrap my head around this fact as I held the 3 babies in my arms. Amabel had fainted from exhaustion as soon as the girl emerged, and I had let her sleep. I was leaning against the headboard, holding my children and looking at them and my mate with awe. The babies had already opened their eyes, but couldn't lift their heads. Werewolf pups mature faster than human babies, yet after a week, they mature at the same rate. The firstborn was a boy and bore a striking resemblance to me. He had a head full of dark ebony hair and honey skin. He was big for his age and weighed more than the average wolf pup. It was obvious simply by looking at him that he'd be the alpha, and he'd be a good one. He opened his eyes to look up at me, and I couldn't help the smile that spread across my face when I saw that he had my gray eyes. The secondborn was a boy as well. He had Belle's dark brown hair and my gray eyes. He was lighter than his brother, but bigger than an average wolf pup. I felt him cuddle closer to my chest and fall back asleep. The thirdborn was a girl. She looked exactly like Belle. She had dark brown hair and her mother's chocolate brown eyes framed by dark lashes. Her lips were the roseate color that Belle's were. Her small, delicate fingers wrapped tightly around my pointer finger as she drifted off to sleep. "Beau!" came a weak whisper. I saw that Belle was awake and struggling to sit up. I quickly pulled her into my arms and watched her eyes light up at the sight of our babies. She took all three of them in her arms and looked up at me. A small tear trickled down her cheek as she noticed the similarities between us and our pups. "What are we going to name them?" I asked her. "I like the name Adrian," Belle murmured. "And Diesel." "Let's name him Adrian," I gestured toward the firstborn. "And him Diesel." I brushed my thumb across my second son's cheek. "And her Lily." "I love it." Belle was crying now. Adrian, Diesel, and Lily. "You're crying again," I chuckled. "Because I'm so happy." She leaned into my chest as I wrapped my arms around her. Chapter 17. Everett's Point of View. I beamed down at Lily. She was a little angel. Even though I wasn't pleased that my baby sister had already given birth, I couldn't help but fall in love with the triplets. Lily looked exactly like Belle, so much so that I found myself remembering childhood days in the oak pack. Belle would poke me until I grew aggravated, then run away, giggling, knowing that I would chase her. I'd chase after her, irritated and upset, but her twinkling laughter would get to me, and I'd end up grinning too. As soon as I'd catch Belle, I'd tickle her until she promised not to poke me again. We'd walk hand in hand to the kitchen to eat ice cream, laughing about random moments. "Aw, you like that, don't you, buddy?" Daff was cooing at Diesel and tickling his stomach with the tip of her finger. "You look just like your mommy and daddy." Her mate, Xavier, was perched on the armrest of the couch, a small smile on his face as he watched Daff and Diesel. I wasn't worried about Daff and Zav. Daff could take care of herself. In fact, I wasn't even very worried about Beau and Belle anymore. Beau had stayed with Belle until she was allowed out of bed, getting her water, helping her use the bathroom, and simply providing her with company. When I first met the kid, I wasn't so sure about him, but now I see that he's exactly what Belle needs. The spark in her eyes when he was around was reason enough to accept him. "Hi, I'm Katerina. Have any of you seen Belle?" A musical voice cut through the air, making me freeze in my place. I knew what this was. I looked up to find her staring at me with wide eyes. Her eyes were the color of honey, and her hair was like spun gold, cascading down her back in loose curls. She had coral lips and milky skin. Katerina was a petite girl. Her scent was delicious bananas and brown sugar. Yeah, I'll take you to her." I handed Lily to Zav and headed up the stairs to Beau and Belle's room. Her delicate footsteps were audible behind me as she struggled to keep up with my long strides. "I'm Everett." I slowed down a bit so she could catch up. Never mind. You know my name already." She sounded slightly flustered. "So do your friends call you Kat?" Yeah. Mine call me Rhett." "I haven't heard the name Rhett before," she commented. "I haven't heard the name Kat before." "It's not that common." That's what I assumed. I grabbed her arm before she could walk into the room. She gave me a confused and slightly dazed look. "Are you busy tonight?" "No," she stuttered a bit. "Good." I flashed her a grin. "I'll stop by your room at 6:30. A tiny smile appeared on her face, and she nodded before walking into their room. Katerina's point of view. I took a deep breath and looked myself over one more time in the mirror. It was my first date with Rhett, and I wanted him to think I was pretty. I was wearing a navy blue vintage dress, black flats, and my hair was pinned back with a barrette. I still couldn't believe how stupid I probably looked earlier. He spoke so smoothly and confidently, whereas I stuttered and got lost in his green eyes. I was staying in Belle's room at her grandparents' house. She'd moved in with Beau, so the room was free, and her grandparents were letting me stay there for as long as I wanted. I was shocked that I hadn't encountered Rhett before we lived in the same house. A slight knock sounded. "Kat? You ready?" "Yup." I opened the door and almost lost my breath. Rhett was wearing dark jeans, a green v-neck, and a suede jacket. His dark brown hair was mussed perfectly, and his emerald eyes sparkled when they saw me. I inhaled his minty, smoky scent, wondering how someone could be so perfect that even their scent affected me. "You look beautiful," he said as he twined his fingers with mine, and only then did I realize that in his other hand was a picnic basket. "You don't look bad yourself." Understatement of the century. "So, we're going on a picnic?" "I make a mean grilled cheese." He shot me a cocky grin that made my heart flutter. "I'm sure you do," I laughed. "No way, cheesecake is way better than regular cake," I exclaimed, turning my head to beam at him. "Cheesecake isn't even real cake. It's pie," he insisted. "Right, that's why it's called cheese pie," I said sarcastically. "That's what it should be called, cheese pea." Rhett and I were lying next to each other on the picnic blanket, our hands entwined. We'd finished our sandwiches and tossed the leftovers to the birds. After deciding to play the 20 questions game in order to get to know each other better, we got into a huge debate about whether cheesecake was better than regular cake. "You're delusional," I sighed. "You obviously haven't eaten a good cake." "I have cheesecake." "Cat, that's pie," he laughed. I loved the way Rhett said my name. It seemed to roll off his tongue smoothly and always sent shivers down my spine. Being here with Rhett made something click. I could now fully understand the looks of love I'd seen between Beau and Belle. It had always made me want to laugh or gag, but after experiencing it, I only envied them and wondered if Rhett felt the same way. "I'll tell you what." Rhett's eyes twinkled, and we both sat up. "I'll fight you for it. Rock, paper, scissors. If you win, we'll buy a cheesecake on our way home and I'll eat a piece. If I win, we buy a regular cake on our way home and you eat a piece." I chuckled. "Deal." "Rock, paper, scissors," we chanted, pounding our hands against our palms. "Ha!" I shouted and threw my hands up victoriously, smirking at him. "Oh no, you didn't." Rhett started tickling me. "Oh my God, Rhett, stop." I panted for breath. Shrieking with laughter, his booming chuckle was audible when I took gasps of breath. "Not until you agree to buy a regular cake." "Never." He continued tickling me, making me endure the torture. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. Okay, we'll get a regular cake," I yelped. The tickling stopped, and I looked up at his smug face. That's what I thought. Only then did I realize that he was straddling me and I was lying on the blanket. Our faces were mere inches apart, and I sucked in a breath. Rhett cupped my face in his hand and tilted my head up, gently pressing his lips to mine. I let out a shaky breath, but didn't pull away. After a few seconds, Rhett leaned forward, pushing me down onto the blanket. I wrapped my arms around Rhett's neck and kept him close. Then it hit me like a load of bricks. This was my first kiss. What if I wasn't even kissing him correctly? What if Rhett didn't like kissing me? What if he decided after this kiss that I wasn't a good enough kisser and decided to reject me? I pulled away from his lips as these thoughts swarmed my brain. "What's wrong?" Rhett frowned and looked down at me. "Nothing, it's just, that was my first kiss and I was rambling now." "Kat, how old are you? How could that be your first kiss?" 16, and I've just never gone out with anybody before and I looked worriedly at Rhett. He had frozen and was staring down at me with wide eyes. Did I say something wrong? Was he being scared off by my rambling? As if something clicked, Rhett scrambled off of me and started packing everything up. "Rhett, what did I say?" I was utterly confused. He shoved the blanket into the basket and turned to me. "Why the hell didn't you tell me you were 16, Kat?" "Why does it matter?" "Because I'm 20. I'm too old for you." His eyes were pained. "What?" I breathed. "We're only 4 years apart." "Kat, you're 16. So, look at Zav and Daph. They're 4 years apart and they don't care. Come on, let's go home." Rhett grabbed my wrist gently and started pulling me back toward the house. I tugged my wrist out of his grip. "What are you talking about? Are you just going to reject me because we're 4 years apart and I'm too young for you? Is that it?" Tears were pouring down my cheeks. "Rhett, please, you can't just give up on us because of a stupid age gap. I love you." He stared at me with pained eyes and clenched fists. I knew that this wasn't easy for him, but I wasn't willing to dwell on that right now. He was the one leaving me, not the other way around. "Kat, you don't know what you're saying. It's your hormones you don't love me. Look, I'm not rejecting you. I would never reject you. I'm just saying that we should wait a couple of years before continuing our relationship. I don't want you to be with me until you're sure that I'm who you want to be with. You still have a few more years at Thunderview." "So you don't want me because I'm 16? My voice cracked, and I swear my heart did too. He took a deep breath and exhaled shakily before replying. "Yes. So you don't want me?" I stuttered, tears flowing freely. "Not yet, Kat. I'm doing this for you. Don't make me seem like the bad guy here." His voice was pleading. But I don't want this, Rhett. Cat, I wouldn't be able to control myself around you. How bad would it look to have a 20-year-old guy being with a 16-year-old girl? He cursed when he realized I was sobbing and bawling my eyes out. You shouldn't have to deal with me when I get possessive and my wolf takes over. You've seen Beau and Belle. Beau's the definition of possessive. Do you really want that right now? You're still young, Cat. Please don't, Rhett, I choked. I'm sorry. Okay? Just wait a couple of years. Rhett, you don't understand. I wouldn't be able to see you with another girl. That would break my heart. He smiled sadly. I don't plan on being with any other girls. Then why can't we just be together? Neither of us plan on dating after this. Because I'm too old. For God's sake, you're 20. And you're 16. He took a deep breath. Cat, this conversation is over, he said, mad. But we're going home, he cut me off. Chapter 18. You guys, I think this is the dress. I squealed happily, beaming at my reflection. This was the 32nd dress I've tried on today, and I was positive that this was the perfect wedding dress. Kat and Daff have been waiting faithfully in the lounge we rented at the most expensive wedding store in Seattle, offering up their opinions and helping me choose dresses to try on. Seriously? Get out here, Belle. We have to see it. Daff sounded even more excited than I did. I bit my bottom lip to keep from smiling too much and flicked open the door, raising my eyebrows questioningly at the girls. Both their jaws dropped, and tears pooled in Daff's eyes. Kat was gazing at me in awe, her hands clasped. Belle, you look... Daff choked out, tears streaming down her face. Beautiful. Kat finished her sentence, and her eyes got watery. I turned and looked at my reflection again. The dress was white, and the bodice was lined with gleaming pearls. It had straps intricately woven with lace to resemble leaves with dewdrops, and they clung to my arms, ending at my wrists. The neckline showed my chest, but no cleavage. It had to be modest, considering I was now a mother as well as the Thunderpack's Luna. The skirt flowed out, and there were so many layers that it puffed out and flowed delicately down to my feet. This is definitely the dress, I agreed. When we get home, we have to hide the dress from Beau, Daff said, grinning. Are you okay, Kat? She still hadn't stopped crying, and I had a feeling that she wasn't crying over how perfect the dress was. Yeah, she sniffed, furiously wiping the tears off her cheeks. No, you're not. I sat next to her and put my arms around my best friend. Tell me what's wrong. I don't want you to get mad at him, she whispered, her hazel eyes meeting mine. Kat, tell me. I spoke gently. Rhett is my mate, she choked out. That's great. Why would I be mad at him? I was puzzled now. He doesn't want to be with me, she was sobbing now. What? Daff and I both jerked up with murderous looks on our faces. We both felt protective over the younger girl. He said he was too old for me. She struggled to talk, usually. When? I demanded. Last night. Her voice was a whisper. Tell us everything. Daff took a seat on the other side of Kat. Yesterday, I was looking for Belle, and I asked Rhett where you were. We both realized that we were mates, and he asked me out on a date, so of course I said yes. Kat wiped tears off her high cheekbones. He took me out for a picnic, and we were playing the 20 questions game. He found out that I was 16, and he sort of freaked. He said that he was too old for me, and that we had to wait until I was 18 to be together. By the end of her explanation, tears were streaming down her face again. Daff and I shared a pained look. We knew why Rhett had told Kat to wait. She was young, and didn't really have the same intimate urges as a fully developed werewolf. She wouldn't understand why Rhett would get furious or suddenly very protective and intense either. But we weren't on Rhett's side. He couldn't just reject Kat, they were mates. She was the one girl made just for him, and he was the one guy made for her. We'll talk to him, Kat. I smiled reassuringly at my best friend. More like murder him, Daff muttered under her breath. Gotta hide his body in Beau's dumpster. Please don't be mad at him. I could tell how in love Kat was, and it broke my heart. Yeah, nobody ever checks the Alpha's dumpster. Daff had a creepy expression on her face. Daff, you're a 22-year-old girl, not a psychopath, I informed my older sister. She mumbled something unintelligible to herself and pulled her phone out, dialing somebody. Kat and I shared a confused look and waited to see who she was calling. Both of us curious. Hey, babe. Oh, it was Ava. I have an itty-bitty favor to ask of you. She waited a few seconds, and I could hear Zav's voice on the other side, but couldn't understand what he was saying. Yes, I'll owe you one, she said. Okay, deal. Can you tie my dear younger brother up and chain him to a chair in the dining room, please? I'd like to have a word with him when I get home. I could make out a few words on the other side, mainly crazy and how much Rhett would hate him. Please, Zav? I'll owe you forever. A small smile slid onto her face at Zav's response. Thanks, Love Crumpet. I'll be home soon. Love you. She and Zav fought over who loved each other more while Kat and I paid for the dress, and I changed back into my jeans and blouse. Kat had a sad and almost envious look on her face when she was watching and listening to Daff and Zav's conversation. It broke my heart to see the younger girl so sad, and even more upset that my brother was the one who was causing her sadness. I engulfed her in a hug. Don't worry, Kat. Everything will work out, I promise, I assured her. Thanks, Belle. She held on to me tightly. Kat giggled and looped her arm through mine as we followed Daff out the door. She had the dress bag in one hand and her phone in the other. She and Zav still hadn't hung up. They're ridiculous, I muttered to Kat as we listened to Daff and Zav's phone conversation. Daff was currently proving why she loved him more. Watch this. I grabbed Daff's phone from her hand. Bye, Zav. Daff will have to call you later. Tell her that I win, Belle, he told me. I could hear Beau's voice in the background. You were arguing with Belle? I thought you were arguing with Daff. He sounded pissed. I was arguing with Daff, Zav shouted back. You just said Belle. I couldn't help but laugh. Zav, tell Beau that I love him and that we're on our way home. Oh, and tell Rhett that Beau just sharpened our kitchen knives last night. I plan on using them. With that, I pressed the end call button and handed the phone to a pouting Daff. I climbed into the truck beside Kat. The three of us sat on the bench that took up the covered part of the car. Daff drove. Kat sat in the middle, and I was on the passenger side. Everett Murdoch, I hollered as I opened the front door. Hey, Love Crumpet. Daff and Zav started kissing, and Beau rolled his eyes, pushing the two of them into the kitchen and closing the door behind them. I told you not to call me that. I could hear Zav's voice from the kitchen. Rhett's in the living room. Beau kissed my forehead. He had Adrian and Diesel in his arms, and Lily was in a baby carrier strapped to his chest. I giggled at him. He looked nothing like how you'd picture the ruthless Thunder Alpha. This was the adorable part of him that emerged from time to time. He scowled when he saw me giggling at him, and I pecked him on the lips. I'll be right back. I have to murder my brother. Why? Beau raised his eyebrows. Wait, never mind. You shout loud enough, I'll probably be able to figure it out. Crap, Daff and Zav are in the kitchen, that's where the knives are. I frowned. Baby, he's your brother. Beau was giving me a worried look. Aren't you supposed to act like this when you're pregnant? Not after you give birth. I'm not insane, Beau. I didn't say you were. You implied it. I love you. I rolled my eyes and walked into the living room, glaring at my confused brother. He was lying on the couch, watching football. He did a double take when he saw my furious expression, then realization dawned on him, and he groaned, rubbing his face. I can't believe you, I screamed. You know I had to, Belle. She's 16, he shouted back. She's your mate. We're 4 years apart, Belle. So are Daff and Zav. She's not a fully developed wolf yet. So you practically reject her, I yelled. I did not reject her. I would never reject her. Now he was glowering too. So what would you call that? Temporary rejection? His face became pained, and we both sank down onto the couch next to each other. My throat was throbbing from screaming so loudly, and I could tell that Rhett's was too. Belle, you don't understand how hard it is, he muttered to me. My wolf goes insane around her, and she wouldn't understand why. Until she turned 18, I would have to use every ounce of my control, and even that wouldn't be enough. I can't claim her until she's 18, and I don't plan on claiming her until then. My wolf wouldn't give me that decision. If I stayed around her all the time, I'd rather be in pain than forcing her to be claimed. Rhett, she's in pain too. I looked up at my brother. Can't you at least try? I don't know, he whispered. He had bags under his eyes. And only then did I realize that this was probably even harder for him. Do you love her? What kind of a question is that? He laughed humorlessly. Of course I do, more than anything, more than myself. That's why I'm forcing myself to stay away from her. When I claim her, I don't want it to be forced or because my wolf took over. Both of us stayed silent for a little while, lost in our thoughts. I could feel Beau's frustration. It was hard for him to control himself when another wolf was yelling at me. Especially a male wolf. I knew that Kat was probably experiencing the same thing, but on a lower level and for Rhett. Please just do something, Rhett. She's heartbroken and doesn't understand why you guys can't be together. The wolves that kept her prisoner didn't teach her about the claiming, I murmured. Damn, I want to kill them, he groaned. Again. I probably did kill them. but I want it to be even more painful. I ruffled my brother's hair and stood up. Don't break her heart, Rhett. I don't know what Kat and Rhett are going to do. I lay in Beau's arms. We just put the triplets to bed. They'll figure something out. Beau brushed his fingers up and down my back. Eventually, they won't be able to stay away from each other. I grinned under the accusing look Beau shot me. You were so lucky that my family was in Vegas that weekend. He chuckled and ducked down to kiss me. Did you know I've broken out of silver chains twice to get to you? Twice? I raised my eyebrows. I didn't know you broke out of them once. My pack had to chain me up in my room to make sure I didn't go to you when you were being stubborn that one week. The second time was when Zav told me that you'd been kidnapped by the Spruce Alpha. I am not stubborn, I pouted. Beau started laughing. You? Not stubborn? Baby, you're the most stubborn person I know. I'm not stubborn, though. I frowned at his amused face. Don't worry. I think it's cute. His lips captured mine in a kiss. Our lips moved in sync, and I reached up to tangle my fingers in his hair. He pulled me closer and planted kisses down my jaw. I knew he was kissing my jaw so I could breathe, but it made me even more breathless. Beau's hand moved to the hem of my tank top, and just as he was about to pull it up, our baby monitor informed us that one of the triplets was bawling their eyes out. Within seconds, all 3 triplets were screaming and crying. I groaned and climbed out from underneath a grumbling Beau. We can continue later. I pulled him in for a quick kiss before heading down the hall to the triplets' room. Chapter 19. I can't do this. I was hyperventilating now. Belle, calm down. Daff spoke with a soothing voice. You'll do fine. You can't walk out on Beau, he's waiting for you. I gulped and focused on my reflection, not what was happening in less than 10 minutes. My dark hair was up in an intricate bun, and a few strands were curled and framing my face. My lips were glossed, and my eyes had a bit of eyeliner to intensify them. I was wearing the dress that Daff, Kat, and I had bought. Around my neck was a gleaming pearl necklace. A shimmery white veil cascaded delicately down my back. I don't think I've looked more beautiful in my entire life. I'm so nervous, Daff. Just think of Beau. In a few hours, the 2 of you can go home and spend the rest of your lives with each other and the triplets. How many people are there, Daff? I invited. She lowered her voice so it was barely audible to a werewolf ear. 800. 800. Do we even know 800 people? My jaw dropped. Belle, calm down. You'll be fine. Daff straightened out my dress. Oh my God, I breathed, putting my hand over my heart. 800 people. Belle. I heard my grandmother gasp from behind me. Sweetheart, you look so beautiful. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she cupped my face in her hands and kissed my forehead. She was holding Lily. My grandfather was standing behind her. His eyes were watery, yet there was a large smile on his face. He was looking sharp in a gray suit. Since my parents were dead, my grandfather was filling in for my father, walking me down the aisle. Princess, I've always dreamed of this day. My grandfather sighed. And now that it's finally happening, I can't believe that I have to say bye to my little princess. I'll always be your little princess, grandfather. I hugged him. Belle, careful. Your dress is going to wrinkle. Daff yelped. Grandfather chuckled and held out his arm for me. I took it and picked up my bouquet of snow-white flowers. Daff picked up her bouquet, and she and Kat walked down the aisle on Rhett and Zav's arms. They were the bridesmaids and groomsmen. Taking a deep breath, I attempted and failed to calm my pounding heart. I dreamt of marrying Beau, but in my dreams I wasn't as nervous as this. I held my grandfather's arm tightly and let him lead me down the aisle. My hands were shaking, and I struggled to remain calm. White rose petals were scattered on the floor, and an archway decorated with flowers awaited me. Below the archway was my dark god, looking more godly than ever. He was wearing a black tuxedo and a black tie. His ebony hair had been trimmed. It was most likely Daff's idea, and his stubble was gone. The one thing that kept me walking, kept me conscious, instead of fainting from anxiety, was him. The way his stormy eyes were watching me, shining with happiness. He was beaming. The cheeky smile I loved was spread across his face. I barely noticed when my grandfather handed me off to Beau. All I could see was him. The priest's voice wasn't audible. Beau was my entire focus. I do, I heard him say. And do you, Amabel Beatrice Murdoch, take Beau Chandler as your lawfully wedded husband? Do you swear to be true to him through good times and bad, through sickness and health? Do you promise to love and honor him through the rest of your days? I came crashing down from cloud 9 to respond. I do. And I had never been more certain in my entire life. The next thing I knew, Beau's lips were on mine. It was like every other kiss we'd shared, but I could feel our werewolf mate bond strengthen as Beau's alpha power sealed it. Much too soon, Beau pulled away and took my hand, slipping a gleaming ring on it, then started leading me back down the aisle. I could see people clapping and cheering, but I was only focused on the sound of my heartbeat and the sensation of my hand, the hand that Beau held so tightly and surely. Ever its point of view. I watched Kat from my table. She was stunning in a pale pink dress. The bodice hugged her figure perfectly, accentuating her curves, and the skirt danced around her feet gracefully. I wanted to run my hands through her golden locks. Every single part of me was itching to run to her, to hold her in my arms and call her mine, then kiss her, to apologize for being so rude and to retract everything I said to her, but I couldn't. It would be so wrong for a 16-year-old girl to have a romantic relationship with a 20-year-old man. She wasn't even legal yet. Apparently, my wolf thought differently, so I remained in my seat, torturing myself. The man she was dancing with would gaze at her in awe he was a human and take her small smiles as encouragement. I knew she was only smiling to be polite, though. As her mate, I could see the pain in her eyes. I knew that I had the same pain, I was just better at hiding it. Go to her. Belle smiled sadly at me. You know I can't, Belle. Go enjoy yourself with Beau. I can't enjoy myself knowing that you two are unhappy. I don't know if I'd be able to control myself, Belle. She's 16. I sighed. I know you will. Her mouth curved up. You're probably one of the strongest people I know, Rhett. You're saying that because I'm your brother. I laughed humorlessly. No, she looked over at Kat. I'm saying that because I can tell you two love each other already. I tried resisting the bond at first, and believe me, Rhett, it's not worth it. Just go be happy. I gulped and looked down at my hands. I don't know if she even wants me anymore. I hurt her, Belle. You're so stupid sometimes. Belle grinned and ruffled my hair. Of course she wants you. She's your mate. Now go to her. I chuckled and sighed, standing up. I'll make a deal with you. I'll go talk to Kat if you go be with Beau. Deal, she beamed at me. Taking a deep breath, I walked across the floor toward where Kat and the human boy were dancing. I wanted to rip the boy's arms off simply for touching my mate, but I let that be my punishment for hurting her. May I cut in? Kat's eyes widened when she saw it was me. Sure. The human-stuttered werewolves had that effect on humans. I wrapped my arms around Kat's waist, and she carefully put hers around my neck. She was probably wondering what was wrong with me. Considering the last time we talked, I was such a jerk. Her hazel eyes looked away nervously, and I could hear her rapid heartbeat. This felt so right, having Kat in my arms. Look, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have done that, I murmured. Done what? Her voice was like a choir of angels. Left you. Her breathing hitched, and she looked down, not responding. I chuckled humorlessly. You must hate me now. She frowned up at me. Hate you? Rhett, you know I could never hate you. Kat sighed. I just wish things were different. I wish you wanted me. My eyes widened. You think I don't want you? Kat shot me a puzzled look. Don't you? I shook my head. I want you more than anything, Kat. I just don't think that we can have a relationship yet. You're only 16. Kat spoke after a few seconds. Why can't we just take things slowly? I might not be strong enough, I breathed. Her eyes locked with mine. I know you are. Please, Rhett. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't reject me. Looking at her pleading face, I knew that I had to be strong enough. In fact, it might take less strength to control myself around her instead of trying to stay away from her. I would do anything to make Kat happy, and I knew this. I guess we can try, I agreed. The smile that spread across her face was worth all the pain I would go through to tame my wolf. I would do anything to have her smile like that again. Amabelle's point of view. Beau had his hands on my waist, and I had mine on his shoulders. We swayed side to side, along with the music as other couples did the same. I leaned my head on his chest and felt him kiss my temple. I wanted to remember this moment forever. Let's go outside, Beau murmured to me. I twined my fingers with his and followed him as he led me to a lush garden. He sat down on a damp bench and pulled me down onto his lap. His arms snaked around my waist, and he gently tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear. You look beautiful, he smiled at me. People keep saying that. I couldn't pull my eyes away from his. Because it's true. If I were to describe pure bliss, I would base it on this moment. I was married to the love of my life. I had 3 perfect children, and both my siblings were happy. When people describe happiness, most picture piles of gold or a large mansion with paparazzi surrounding. When I was younger, that's what I'd always imagined was what it meant to be happy. Now I realize how wrong I was. I don't think I've ever been this happy, I whispered. I love you. Bo smiled and leaned in toward me, pressing his lips to mine. I wrapped my arms around his neck and kissed him back. Memories came flooding to my mind. The first time I met Bo, when our eyes locked, I was frightened of falling for him. The first time he climbed into my bedroom and tickled me, he would sit and watch the Titanic with me. He would hide underneath his jacket hood when we shopped at the mall together. Then I remembered when I found out I was pregnant and curled up on the couch with him to picture our kids. When he came and saved me from the spruce alpha, never giving up on me. How he held me while I was giving birth and stayed with me the entire time, through day and night, only eating and sleeping when he knew I was well. In that moment, I couldn't have asked for more. He was mine, and I was his. I couldn't be happier. Epilogue. Adrian, what are you doing on the countertop? I dashed over to the 7-year-old and picked him up, resting him on my hip. Baby, can you get Lily and Diesel? Bo walked in with Lily on his shoulders and Diesel giggling, holding onto Bo's leg and sitting on his foot. I grinned. Diesel loved to attach himself to Bo's leg while he was walking. It was like a ride for him. Lily would cheer Diesel on and sit on his shoulders, gripping his hair and wrapping her small arms around his forehead. Ready? Bo was holding our suitcases. Yup. I kissed him on the cheek and locked the front door behind him. We loaded our suitcases into the car and buckled the triplets into the back seat. The 5 of us were going on our first family vacation to Disneyland, and the triplets were excited. This was their first time leaving Seattle, and they weren't upset to be leaving home. Is Prince Charming going to be there? Lily wondered as Bo backed out of the driveway and began to drive down the road. Yup, I turned and smiled at her. Do you want to take a picture with him? Yes, she cried out. Bo chuckled and twined his fingers with mine, driving with his left hand. Adrian frowned, and he and Diesel shared a look. What about Captain Hook? Diesel asked. He'll be there too. Diesel, he's the bad guy. Lily looked at her brother incredulously. What about Flynn Rider? He's my favorite. Adrian grinned at me through the mirror. He's handsome. Lily smiled, then blushed. Lils, you're not supposed to think a boy is handsome until you're 50, Bo exclaimed. 50? Lily gasped. 50. You can start dating when you're 60, and when you're 70, I'll let you get married. Bo was grinning at her. I was amazed at how similar he and Adrian looked. But by then I'll be wrinkly, she protested. What about me, Daddy? Diesel questioned. Same for all of you. I'm never getting married, Adrian announced. Girls have cooties and they always chase me around trying to feel my hair. Feel your hair? I raised my eyebrows. Yeah, why can't they feel their own hair? Bo laughed. Did you know that your mommy used to chase me around trying to feel my hair? The triplets burst into laughter, and Lily snorted, making all of us laugh even harder. I smacked Bo lightly on the arm, and he kissed my cheek. Bo's point of view. I could hear the triplets even breathing, informing me that they were asleep. We'd gotten a fairy-themed hotel room with 2 beds. The kids shared one bed, and Belle and I shared the other. Everyone but me was out like a light. It had been a long day full of rides, cotton candy, and lots of pictures. I crawled underneath the covers next to my wife and cuddled up against her, feeling her back against my chest. She stirred and twisted to face me. Even after over 7 years with her, I couldn't get over how beautiful my mate was and how lucky I was to have her. Her chocolate brown eyes fluttered open, and a small smile slid onto her face. I love you, she murmured. Even though we'd probably uttered those 3 words to one another thousands, no millions, of times, I felt like the luckiest man on earth every single time I heard her say those words to me. I pulled her closer to me and pressed my lips against hers lightly. My life had turned out so much better than I could have ever imagined. I had a family that I'd do anything for. This was especially important to me. Growing up, I'd never had much of a family. My parents were never a part of my life. Letting me move out was the best thing they'd done for me. I'd been considered ruthless and heartless before meeting Belle, but now that I was with her, my friends would tease me about how much I loved her. The ones who'd mated and started their own families, Zav, Rhett, Birch, knew what it was like, and they understood just how much it meant to love a mate and to be loved by them. I would never be able to put into words what I felt for Belle. It was too powerful to put into words. I couldn't ask for anything more than her love, and was thankful for every single second she was mine. I love you too, I whispered.